Chapter 2432. Something's not right. From Enso, following Tiger Right's signal, Xiaolong stood up and strode towards the kidnapper's second brother, yelling as he walked, "Stop it right now. What's the point of bullying a girl?" Wah! The second kidnapper froze. He didn't think that someone would stand up for him in this situation. Was he tired of living? The second kidnapper turned around coldly and looked at Xiaolong, who was striding towards him. "Kid, do you want to die?" "Oomph." Her classmate said that this jade pendant is a memento. Maybe it's something left behind by her parents. No, something left behind by her grandpa. Xiaolong blurted out subconsciously. Seeing Xinyan's expression change, he remembered that Xinyan's parents were still alive. Only her grandpa had passed away, so he quickly changed his words. He was saving the damsel in distress so that Xinyan would dig out her eyes and leave a good impression. If he cursed her parents to death, how would he leave a good impression on her? "Memento my ass, if you keep calling me that. I'll turn this into your memento." The second kidnapper raged. Xiaolong dared to challenge his authority, so naturally he was pissed, especially when someone stood up for him just as the robbery was about to end. Look, Xiaolong thought that although the second kidnapper's words weren't pleasant to the ears, his acting was quite good. If he wasn't so vulgar, he wouldn't be a kidnapper. "Hey, this girl is my fiancée. If you want to bully her, you'll have to go through me first," Xiaolong said righteously. Lin Yi, who was about to make a move, looked at Xiaolong with interest. What was this kid trying to do by jumping out at this time? As far as Lin Yi was concerned, Xiaolong wasn't a brainless person who would jump out at the sight of his girl being bullied. If he was angry for his girl, he would have fought Lin Yi a long time ago. Why would he wait until now? Therefore, Lin Yi felt that this matter was a little strange. But no matter what, Wang Xinyan wasn't in danger now that Xiaolong was here. Lin Yi wouldn't do anything else right now. Xiaolong saw that Lin Yi didn't move. He was overjoyed. This kidnapper must be the heaven stage expert. When it came to Lin Yi, once he released his heaven stage pressure, Lin Yi didn't even dare to let out a fart. Xiaolong felt that Lin Yi would have made his move a long time ago if it were any other day. There had to be a reason why he didn't. Thinking of this, he felt more confident. He pointed at the kidnapper and snorted. "You want me to become a relic? Then let's give it a try. Even if I die today, I won't let you have your way." "Then you fucking go to hell." The second kidnapper was so angry that he thought to himself, how could this person be retarded? Can't he see that we have all kinds of weapons? This kid dares to fight us with his bare hands? "Even if I die, I won't let you bully my fiancée." Xiaolong walked over and hugged the kidnapper, shouting loudly, "Oh my fucking god! You little bastard, do you want to die?" The second kidnapper's mouth was full of slang. Just when Xiaolong was thinking that this kidnapper was really good at acting, he felt a sudden thud on his head. Xiaolong felt dizzy and disoriented. A big bump appeared on the back of his head, and his nose started bleeding. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was scary. Xiaolong screamed and turned around, dizzy and disoriented. He saw the kidnapper holding a bloody wooden stick, glaring at him fiercely. "You? What are you doing? Why are you hitting me with a stick?" Xiaolong was dumbfounded and didn't know what to do. According to what he discussed with Tiger Right, it was just to have one of them stab him in the arm and let him bleed. The kidnappers would see that things weren't going well, and they'd just say that it was urgent and run away. But the situation was very different from what Xiaolong had planned. Why did someone hit him in the back with a stick? "Are you stupid, kid? Who else would I hit if not you?" The second kidnapper was speechless at Xiaolong's retarded question. Was there something wrong with this kid? He didn't even know why he was getting hit. Xiaolong was dumbfounded. He looked at Tiger Right anxiously, hoping that he could take care of this. Right Coiling Tiger had no way of standing out and scolding these people in front of him right now. If he opened his mouth, wouldn't he be exposed? Tiger Right could only try his best to signal the kidnappers with his eyes, but they didn't even look in his direction. Xiaolong turned around and kept signaling to the second kidnapper with his eyes, hinting to him that the fourth kidnapper could just stab him. He didn't have to resort to so many tricks anymore. It was too painful for him. "What's wrong with your eyes? Why are you blinking at me? You're asking for a beating, aren't you?" The second kidnapper thought that Xiaolong wouldn't be able to beat him, so he used his eyes to look down on him. He threw a punch at Xiaolong's face, causing his face to split open and his nose to bleed. Xiaolong let go of the fourth kidnapper and held his nose and face, crying out in pain. "Little bastard, aren't you a hero saving the damsel in distress? Aren't you trying to act cool in front of me?" The fourth kidnapper was furious that Xiaolong had let go of him. He didn't even care about Xin Yan's jade pendant anymore. He kicked Xiaolong's crotch, cursing, "Motherfucker, I'll cripple you and make you impotent. Saving the damsel in distress is a waste of your bullshit." Ouch! Xiaolong's crotch was in excruciating pain, and he was panting heavily with a crying face. He was going crazy on the inside. What were these people trying to do? Didn't they say that he could just stab himself? Did they have to be so realistic? He might have used this trick, but wasn't it too painful? Upon who you frowned. He felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out why this was happening. However, he couldn't say anything to the fourth kidnapper. He could only choose the second kidnapper who was closest to him. He lowered his voice and said, "What's wrong with you guys? Just stab me once. Why did you have to hit me so hard? Don't you want to live anymore? Or do you think that the name of the hidden house you is for nothing?" He couldn't blame Pan Hu Yu for being angry. Although these people were the customers of the hidden house you and not their underlings, they usually ate and drank from them, and even took the hidden house you's pills and treasures. Why didn't they listen to him at the critical moment? The second kidnapper was originally unhappy that Pan Hu Yu dragged him here to teach him a lesson, but when he heard the name of the hidden house you, his expression froze. Although he made a living as a robber, he was also the most well-informed. He knew about some people in noble houses that he couldn't afford to offend. Chapter 2438 _ School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading _ Chapter 2438. Something's wrong? Update complete. Chapter 2433. Strength comes from. So, when Pan Hu Yu mentioned the hidden house you, the second robber knew that this person wasn't someone to mess with. He frowned and said to the fourth robber, "Give him a stab. Let's go." "Oh, okay." The fourth robber paused, realizing that he'd gone too far. Xiaolong was on the ground, and his face was covered in blood. This didn't fit their plan. After hearing the second robber's words, the fourth robber took out a dagger and stabbed Xiaolong's butt. He said coldly, "Little bastard, don't try to be a hero if you don't have a few tricks up your sleeve. You're nothing but dog shit." Xiaolong's butt hurt, and he screamed again. His eyes rolled back in his head, and he almost fainted from anger. What kind of fucking people did they find? They said that they'd let him get stabbed in the arm to protect Xin Yan, and then they'd run away, but now. Not only did they almost break his balls, but they'd also beaten him black and blue, and even stabbed his butt. Of course, that was fine, but what the fourth robber said at the end was a little fucked up. It made Xiaolong's heroic actions go up in smoke. He'd gotten hurt for nothing, and in the end, he'd had to stand up for himself after failing to show off. Lao Si was having so much fun beating up Xiaolong that he'd forgotten about Xin Yan's jade pendant. Seeing how badly he'd beaten up Xiaolong, he quickly got out of the car with the other three to look for their next target, afraid that Xiaolong might die. The white boss sighed in relief when he saw the robbers leave. He couldn't do anything when Xiaolong was getting beaten up, and if he tried to stop them now, they'd probably beat him up even more. But the white boss was curious. Why did Xiaolong have to stand up for himself? Since when did Xin Yan become his fiancée? There seemed to be some sort of secret here. "Xiaolong, I didn't expect this. TSK, you're really good at acting cool. This is truly unprecedented, and no one will be able to surpass it in the future." Lin, he looked at Xiaolong and said faintly, "There's a saying that goes like this. If you're strong enough, you're showing off. If you're weak, you're just an idiot." "Linny, don't talk so much." Brokong stood up because he didn't want his classmate to be bullied. Pan Hu right walked over and helped Xiaolong up nervously. After all, he was the one who hired these robbers. Now that there was a problem, Xiaolong couldn't take it out on his family. It was supposed to be a friendly gesture with House Kong, but in the blink of an eye, Xiaolong had been turned into a bloody gourd by his own people, and his butt was bleeding profusely. What the hell was going on? Right Coiling Tiger was speechless. Xiaolong's last slash seemed to have been a hint from him to the robbers. Why was it so weird? Hiss! Xiaolong stood up. His legs were trembling. Linny, are you still a man? When the robbers came, you didn't dare to stand up. Bro Kong stood up, and you're still mocking him. What kind of mentality is that? Ponhu right knew that in Boss Bai's class, and with Boss Bai present, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Naturally, he dared to mock Lin Yi. Oh, it's his fault for being a busybody. If Xin Yan hadn't given the jade to the robbers, everything would have been fine, right? Lin Yi said faintly. Didn't you hear Xin Yan say that the jade is very important to her? Right, Coiling Tiger said angrily. What are you saying? Oh, if it's important, then I'll get it back. Lin Yi curled his lips indifferently. He pulled out a tablet from his pocket like magic and passed it to Han Jingjing. This tablet is very important to Han Jingjing too, so I got it back for her. Thank you, Linny bro. Han Jingjing was overjoyed. She didn't expect to get her tablet back. As for her iPhone, it didn't matter. There was no important information in it, and she didn't care about how much it cost. What she cared about the most was this tablet. It's nothing. Lin Yi took out another wallet. This was Lin Yi's wallet. He weighed it in his hand and put it back into his pocket. He looked at Xiaolong. Say, are you looking for a beating? At first, the other students thought that Lin Yi's mocking of Xiaolong was inappropriate. But now that they saw Lin Yi take back Han Jingjing's tablet and his wallet, they were all impressed. So Lin Yi was confident that he could get them back. Xiaolong really was a troublemaker. If he didn't show up, Lin Yi could easily take care of it. He almost made things more complicated. Xin Yan, on the other hand, was a little disappointed that Lin Yi didn't do anything. After all, the one she liked was Lin Yi. Even if she had to save the damsel in distress, she wanted it to be Lin Yi and not Xiaolong. Xin Yan didn't like Xiaolong, but she didn't want him to be beaten up like this because of her. She felt guilty and blamed Lin Yi for arguing with Xiaolong at a time like this. But after seeing Lin Yi's actions and hearing Lin Yi's words, Xin Yan immediately understood that she misunderstood. It wasn't that Lin Yi didn't want to help, but Xiaolong's appearance ruined Lin Yi's plan. Lin Yi could solve the problem quietly, but Xiaolong just had to complicate things. Lin Yi couldn't tell Xiaolong his plan in front of the robbers. Otherwise, Han Jingjing's tablet would be taken back again. Xin Yan smiled bitterly as she shook her head. She remembered the first time she met Lin Yi on the train. Wasn't he the one who'd taken the money from the scammers back into his pocket without a word? He even took the scammers' money. Xin Yan didn't even see how Lin Yi did it. It was unbelievable. Lin Yi was probably going to use the same move today, wasn't he? Thinking about Lin Yi's ability and comparing it to Xiaolong's recklessness, Xin Yan felt that Xiaolong wasn't good enough. Compared to Lin Yi, Xiaolong was too weak. Tiger Right didn't expect Lin Yi to do something like this. He froze, as if he was struck by lightning. He stared at the tablet in Han Jingjing's hands, speechless. It took him a while to come back to his senses. He almost cursed out loud. Not only did he fail to please House Kong and Xiaolong, he didn't even get Han Jingjing's tablet. What was going on? Did he come all this way for nothing? Did he send out his Sky class master for nothing? Chapter 2439 _ School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading _ Chapter 2439. Do you have the ability or not? Updated. Chapter 2434. From Not Enough IQ Lin Yi. If you're so good, why didn't you take back the stuff from the other students? Just take it back for you and Han Jingjing. How can you be so selfish? Isn't the loss of other students a loss? Ponhu Right was pissed off and finally found a good reason to attack Lin Yi. The students who didn't know the truth felt that it made sense after hearing Ponhu Right's words. Indeed, if Lin Yi was so good, why didn't he help them get back what they lost? And so, the students who had their stuff stolen looked at Lin Yi with disdain. How much stuff do you think I can stuff in my clothes? I didn't even take back Jingjing's phone, or Bai Weitua's wallet and phone. How could I help others? Lin Yi said faintly. Lin Yi's words made the other students who looked down on Lin Yi understand. Yes, Lin didn't even take care of Han Jingjing's phone or his roommate Bai Weitua. How could anyone else? And Lin Yi was right. How much stuff could he stuff in his clothes? If he took too much, wouldn't he be discovered by the robbers? Ponhu Right saw the understanding expressions on the students' faces and knew that his attack on Lin Yi had failed. He felt embarrassed. All right, hurry and help Xiaolong back. Your IQ isn't enough, I don't blame you. Lin Yi said. Birds of a feather flock together. You and Xiaolong are both stupid. Otherwise you wouldn't have asked such a stupid question, and he wouldn't have done such a stupid thing. Panhu right cursed in his heart as he helped Xiaolong back to his seat. He was fuming, but he didn't dare do anything to Lin Yi. Hiss! Xiaolong sucked in a breath of cold air the moment he sat down. The knife in his butt didn't hurt his muscles or bones, but the pain was excruciating. He stood up the moment he sat down. Lil Yu, brother Yu, help me apply the medicine. Quick! All right. Yu Panhu quickly took out a bottle of Dr. Kang's golden creation and sprinkled it all over Xiaolong's butt. Although the Kong family's pharmaceutical company had closed down, the Kong family still had a lot of stocks. One had to admit that the special edition golden creation was very useful. Xiaolong's butt stopped bleeding very quickly, and only then did Xiaolong sit back down with a slightly better expression. He started applying the special edition golden creation on his face. As for his balls that were about to explode from the kick, Xiaolong didn't mind at all. He could only take some medicine to reduce the swelling, but the Kong family did not have such a special medicine. He only brought some common medicine for survival in the wild, and it took a lot longer to reduce the swelling. Phew! Xiaolong let out a breath of relief and said unhappily, I say, brother Yu, what's going on? Why are these people fighting for real? Why are they beating me so hard? Of course, Xiaolong didn't dare to have a falling out with Yu Panhu right now. After all, Kong Ming Ming wasn't an elder of the Sky Elixir sect yet. Xiaolong still had many things to trouble Yu Panhu for in the future, so he just wanted to vent his anger. However, he also believed that this wasn't Yu Panhu's intention. Yu Panhu wasn't an idiot. He tried so hard to come up with a great idea of saving the damsel in distress, and then messed it up. Wasn't there something wrong with him? I don't know either. Yu Panhu said with a bitter face, I told my grandpa what I wanted, and he said that he would send a Sky class to help. Who knew that things would turn out like this? I'm sorry, Brother Kong, this is what happened. I'll definitely give you an explanation. Forget it. Don't make it hard for your grandpa. These Sky class masters all have their own pride. Xiaolong waved his hand. He didn't want to fall out with House Yu because of this, but it wasn't a problem to vent his anger on Yu Panhu. However, he didn't dare to question old Master Yu. I'll ask Grandpa what happened first. Yu Panhu nodded and reached for his phone. He didn't find it. Only then did he realize that he had given his phone to the robbers. He smiled bitterly. I don't have my phone anymore. I'll find a public phone when we get to the ski resort. It's fine, there's no rush, Xiaolong said, gritting his teeth. Before, Lin Yi didn't pay attention to Yu Panhu and Xiaolong. Although he was an Earth class and had sharp eyes and ears, he still needed to use his senses to sense his surroundings. When he had nothing to do, he couldn't use his pure chi or enter the jade space to sense what people were doing and saying. Even a Sky class master couldn't pay attention to these things all the time. What other things could he do? However, Lin Yi was wondering why Xiaolong would suddenly jump out. Just now, Yu Panhu and Xiaolong both suffer a loss, and Lin Yi was afraid that they would play some tricks to take revenge on him. So he paid attention to them. He didn't expect to hear their conversation. It sounded like the robbers from before were hired by Right Coiling Tiger or some Sky class master. But why didn't Lin Yi feel like a Sky class master at all? When these robbers came, Lin Yi used his golden finger to sense them. These 4 robbers were all normal people, and the boss was only slightly stronger than normal people, but he hadn't stepped in a golden class yet. He was only half a step in a golden class. How could he be a Sky class master? Could it be that there was a physical Sky class master among them? Lin Yi shook his head. It didn't seem possible, right? As for Xiaolong's plan of saving the damsel in distress, it was even weirder. No wonder this kid jumped out all of a sudden. He wanted to put on an act, but things changed, and he screwed it up. But Lin Yi was a little puzzled. These people were hired by Yu Panhu. Were they here to help Xiaolong, or to ruin his show? Why did it look like they were here to ruin his show? Shaking his head, Lin Yi shifted his attention away from them. Xiaolong was gritting his teeth in pain, but he didn't say anything and just closed his eyes to rest. Xin Yan looked at Xiaolong with pity in her eyes. She didn't like Xiaolong, but he'd gotten hurt because of her. It was kind of like I didn't kill him, but he died because of me. It gave her a headache. How was she supposed to return the favor? Xiaolong's face was full of regret. Xiaolong, are you all right? Do you need us to send you to the hospital first? White Boss asked worriedly after seeing Xiaolong's condition. White Boss knew that Xiaolong had applied medicine, but he still asked with concern. Master Bai, I'm fine. I'll be fine in a bit. Xiaolong quickly shook his head. Chapter 2440 _School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading _ Chapter 2440 I Am Not Smart Enough. Update complete. Chapter 2435. Another robbery from Xiaolong, of course, wouldn't go to the hospital. He didn't manage to save the damsel in distress this time, and he had other plans to carry out when he went to the ski resort. That's good. Let me know if you have any problems. Boss Bai nodded in relief. Xiaolong came from a medical family, and his medical knowledge was solid as well. If he felt that there was no problem, then there was no problem. He turned to the other students. Students, no one wants to see a robbery, but since it's already happened, there's no need to worry too much about it. I'll pay for everyone's expenses for this trip. Everyone, enjoy yourselves, don't feel burdened, and leave all the unhappiness behind. Okay, thank you, Master Bai. Don't worry, we're not that weak. The students on the bus all voiced out their support after hearing Boss Bai's words. The robbery didn't really scare them that much, and other than that unlucky guy with glasses, the others only lost money. But Xiaolong getting beaten up after that was a bit too much for everyone to handle. But now that they knew that Xiaolong was fine, they let out a sigh of relief. That's good, Boss Bai nodded. I see that the cars in front are starting to move, and the road is almost cleared. That's great. The students cheered again. Linny frowned as he watched the 4 robbers leave, but he didn't do anything else. In actuality, he had a backup plan. If Xinyan's jade was taken by the robbers, and Lin he didn't have the chance to take it back, he'd follow them out of the car, find a secluded place, and kill the 4 robbers to get the jade back. As for the other things taken by the robbers, Lin he didn't think about getting them back for the other students. What would he say after getting them back? Would he say that he killed the robbers? Then he probably wouldn't be able to go to this winter outing. Sure enough, after a short while, the highway was open to traffic, and the buses that the students were on also slowly started moving forward. But the speed wasn't fast. Because there were cars in front of them, they couldn't run for a while. If they really wanted to run, they would have to wait for a while. When the small cars in front started running, the bus would start running too. In any case, it was a great thing to have the train open. The students were very excited and gratified, and soon forgot the previous unhappiness. Another half an hour or so passed. The bus finally started moving on the highway. However, before everyone could rejoice for long, the bus suddenly slammed on the brakes. That was because a heavy truck had suddenly appeared in front of them. Actually, rather than saying that they were merging, it would be more accurate to say that the heavy truck was trying to force the bus to stop. This kind of dangerous action made even the tour bus driver, who drove the tour bus all day, break out in a cold sweat. He wasn't afraid of the robbery before. After all, he was the driver of the tour bus. Although this kind of thing was not common, it was still something that he had encountered before. However, the robbers generally wouldn't rob the drivers because the drivers who drove the big bar belonged to the travel company. They didn't have much money in their pockets. Other than a pack of cigarettes, they only had a few hundred yuan to pay for the highway toll. Hence, the robbers' targets were usually the passengers. But now, the situation was different. The heavy truck kept merging, braking, merging, and braking. Its intention was obvious, which was to force the bus to stop. It was a thrilling scene. After the students on the bus saw this, they were a little dumbfounded. They didn't understand why this trip was so difficult. They had just encountered a robbery, and now there was a heavy truck that didn't care about their lives. They didn't know what the heavy truck was trying to do. What good would it do to force the bus to stop? Creak, creak. The sound of the bus's brakes came one after another. Very soon, the bus's speed dropped from 100 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. Then, the heavy truck finally stopped, and the driver had no choice but to brake. There had to be something fishy going on. This was the first time the tour bus driver had encountered such a situation. Playing this kind of trick on the highway was simply murderous. However, the heavy truck didn't seem to want to kill people because it gave the bus driver enough time to react and brake. Although the heavy truck had been trying to force the bus to stop, it wasn't in a hurry. Instead, it did it step by step, letting the bus slow down slowly. Finally, it stopped the bus, reducing the danger to the minimum. "We may have encountered another robbery," the driver said with a pale face. He finally thought of the most impossible situation, but in fact, this was the most likely situation. "What?" Boss Guy was stunned after listening to the driver's words. "How can we be so unlucky? We just encountered a robbery, and now there's another group of robbers? Can there be such a coincidence?" After the other students on the bus heard the driver's words, their faces changed. They had just been robbed, and now there's another robbery. Why are we so unlucky to encounter such a thing? There were so many cars on the highway, and yet their bus had problems? As the people on the bus spoke, the driver's compartment of the heavy truck was opened. Two people came out, one tall and one short. After getting off, they walked toward the bus. Seeing these two, Lin Yi's eyelids twitched as he thought of something. He looked at the bloody Xiaolong and almost laughed out loud. This was too much of a coincidence. The two people who walked out of the truck looked very normal, but Lin Yi could tell their strength with one look with his golden finger. The tall one was an Earth-class late-phase peak, and the short one was a Sky-class early phase. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of the tall one. He was about the same level as Elder Bai, and in Lin Yi's hands, it was just one move. Lin Yi was an Earth-class mid-phase, and he wasn't afraid when he used the fifth form of Fire by Wapom. Now that he was an Earth-class mid-phase peak, and he could use the sixth form, what worried Lin Yi was the short Sky-class early phase. Lin Yi didn't have much confidence in killing this person. After all, he was a Sky-class, and Lin Yi was still an Earth-class, not even at Earth-class late-phase peak. But at least this Sky-class early phase didn't look too strong, and was only a normal Sky class. He shouldn't be someone from the ancient world. Of course, this person was most likely a heaven stage expert sent by right coiling Tigeritsu family. He should be the kind of person who was a hanger-on. He couldn't be too strong. Otherwise, if he was too powerful, he wouldn't be a member of the Hidden Right family. He would have long gone to an ancient sect or ancient family. Chapter 2441, The Campus Belle's Bodyguard, is free to read. Another robbery completed. Chapter 2436. His face was ugly. If he succeeded, it would save him a lot of trouble. Of course, if he didn't succeed, Lin Yi had no other choice. He could only brace himself and fight. Since these two people were found by right coiling tiger, Lin Yi didn't believe that they would dare to fight here. Moreover, such an obvious blockade on the highway would quickly attract the attention of people with ulterior motives. Look, fortunately, Lin Yi made the right bet and succeeded. The sixth form, Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm, was Lin Yi's first time facing an enemy. In the past, he only practiced it at home. The physical strength and true chi required was incomparable to that of an actual enemy. Only when Lin Yi truly used this form on the enemy's body did Lin Yi realize how much physical strength this form consumed. With Lin Yi's current strength, with his physical strength and true chi, he estimated that he could only use 3 palms. For Lin Yi, whose true strength was only in the earth tier, a heaven tier martial skill was still a little too strenuous. Although the fifth form, Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm, was equivalent to the 11th form of an ordinary martial skill. In theory, this was also a heaven tier martial skill. However, this was completely because of the Frenzy Fire Fist. In reality, the fifth form of the Frenzy Fire Fist plus the 5 forms of the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm still belonged to the category of an earth tier martial skill. It was just that Lin Yi was equivalent to the 11th form, not the 11th form. From the 6th form, Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm, it truly belonged to the category of a heaven tier martial skill. After Lin Yi used the 6th form and then the 7th form, he felt like his entire body was about to collapse. It really consumed too much physical strength. Especially the 7th form, after it was successfully used, it seemed to have drained all the true chi in Lin Yi's body, causing Lin Yi to barely stand at the car door. He even had to use his hands to support the car door. It's all for nothing, two robber brothers. Lin Yi pretended as if nothing had happened and said, "Brother driver, I beat them away. Hurry up and drive. Don't worry about these two people. They won't die anyway." It was unknown whether the tall robber was dead or alive, but Lin Yi guessed that he was most likely dead. However, because the people in the car were all his classmates, Lin Yi couldn't say that he killed a robber in front of them. That would be too scary. This was also the reason why Lin Yi didn't get out of the car to chase after the four robbers. Oh, okay. When the driver saw Lin Yi deal with the two robbers by himself, he was relieved. He quickly reversed the car, turned the car around, and drove away from the heavy truck in front. Lin Yi said so. The students on the bus didn't think too much about it. They just felt that Lin Yi was powerful, but they didn't think that someone would die. Of course, except for Boss Bai, Han Jingjing, Right Coiling Tiger, and his two subordinates. No one knew how dangerous and terrifying the two robbers that Lin Yi was facing were. In the eyes of the driver and other students, the two robbers that Lin Yi dealt with were far worse than the four robbers from before. These two people were barehanded. They didn't have pistols, daggers, or even sticks, and they still wanted to rob. It was normal for Lin Yi to beat them off the car door. There was nothing strange about it. It was just that Lin Yi's skills were better. However, although Boss Bai wasn't a cultivator at the moment, when Lin Yi shouted the name of the move and the words of the short robber, Boss Bai understood how powerful this guy was. The 13 style of the Heaven Tier martial technique couldn't even kill the short robber. What level of cultivator was he? He was at least a Heaven Tier cultivator. This situation shocked Boss Bai, and he secretly thought that he was lucky. Fortunately, Lin Yi made a move. Otherwise, the students on the bus would be in danger. Of course, Boss Bai naturally couldn't guess that these two people were from the Hidden Right family. However, if Lin Yi could injure a Heaven Tier expert, then what level of strength did Lin Yi have? Although Han Jingjing was only an alchemist, she could feel the true chi fluctuations on Lin Yi and the robber's cultivator. From this, she could also see the strength of the two cultivators. Although the tall cultivator's strength was fleeting, she could still feel it. As for the short cultivator, she could not help but feel it. After vomiting blood, he had been using true chi to heal himself, so she naturally knew. However, even if one of them was a peak late Earth Tier expert, and the other was an early Heaven Tier expert, Han Jingjing was not afraid at all. She believed that Lin Yi was stronger than them. The people with the ugliest expressions were Right Coiling Tiger and his two subordinates. They were all cultivators, and what Han Jingjing could feel, they could naturally feel as well. The moment the tall robber was hit by Lin Yi, he subconsciously wanted to use true chi to protect his body, but it was too late. Then, there was no sign of life, and he probably couldn't survive. And the short robber of the early Heaven Tier couldn't even withstand one move from Lin Yi. What was going on? Of course, this wasn't the root cause of their ugly expressions. The root cause of Right Coiling Tiger's ugly expression was that he suddenly realized that he was wrong, and that he had made a huge mistake. These two people, from the looks of it, were the masters sent by the Hidden Right family, and the robbers from before were the real robbers. This could also explain why the robbers' actions were different from what Right Coiling Tiger had expected, and why they didn't cooperate with Zhao Long, and instead made a fool of him. Thinking of this, Right Coiling Tiger had the urge to cry. How could this be so coincidental? He arranged for the robbers, and he still met the real robbers on the way. This luck was enough to buy a lottery ticket. "Brother Yu, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale?" Zhaolong suddenly realized that Right Coiling Tiger's face was very pale, and his body couldn't stop shaking. I. Right Coiling Tiger was about to say something when he saw Lin Yi walking over. His heart jumped, and his eyes darted around. Did Lin Yi see something? That shouldn't be the case. Although he was the one who found them, he hadn't seen these two people before. So how did Lin Yi know? Therefore, the Right Coiling Tiger lowered his head and pretended as if nothing had happened. But it just so happened that when Lin Yi walked to their side, he stopped and stood next to Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger's seats, not moving forward. Linny, what are you doing? Are you trying to show off that you beat 2 robbers? What's it to show off? If you're so strong, why didn't you do anything when Big Bro Kong was fighting the robbers? Right Coiling Tiger felt uncomfortable being stared at by Linny. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and ask Linny. Chapter 2443 _ School Bells Bodyguard Free Reading _ Chapter 2443 updated with an ugly expression. Chapter 2437. Don't open the door yet. I'll go take a look. Lin Yi stood up and strode to the door in front. The bus driver was just about to open the window and asked the 2 men why they were driving like this, telling them that his bus had just been looted and there was nothing valuable left. But before he could open his mouth, Lin Yi spoke first. The driver hesitated and looked at Boss Bai. After all, he was just a driver for the travel company, and Boss Bai was the teacher of these people. In the end, it was best for Boss Bai to make the decision. Otherwise, if something happened to the students on the bus, the travel company might bear some responsibility. Boss Bai looked at Lin Yi, pondered for a moment, and nodded in agreement. Do as he said. Boss Bai knew that Lin Yi was a cultivator. Although he didn't know how high Lin Yi's combat index was, cultivators were always much stronger than ordinary people. Lin Yi must have said that because he wanted to get rid of the 2 robbers before they got on the bus. This was also Boss Bai's hope. If these 2 people got on the bus, the students on the bus would have no money in their pockets. They were not afraid of robbers, but he was afraid that these 2 people did not get anything valuable and would hurt the students on the bus in anger. Thieves would not leave empty-handed. Boss Bai also understood that these people wasted a lot of effort but got nothing. Naturally, they would not be happy. It was normal for them to hurt 2 students to vent their anger. Although Lin Yi could easily kill them on the bus, Lin Yi would definitely be restrained, afraid that when he killed one, the other would hurt the other students. So, it would be best if Lin Yi could get off the bus. Oh, okay. The driver nodded. Since Boss Bai had spoken, it was all Boss Bai's business if anything went wrong. He could get rid of the responsibility. Creak. The electric door of the bus opened, and Lin Yi happened to come to the door of the bus. The 2 robbers were about to get on the bus. Seeing the door open so cooperatively, they were stunned. Originally, they thought that if the driver was too afraid to open the door, they would break in. This kind of door was easy for the 2 masters to break, but they didn't expect the door to open by itself. Hello, robber brothers. As soon as Lin Yi opened the door, he greeted the 2 robbers, one tall and one short. The tall robber and the short robber were both stunned. What was going on with the people in the car? Is there something wrong with him? From the looks of it, it seemed that he was more than welcome to rob it. Otherwise, what was the point of greeting? Excuse me, are you here to rob? Lin Yi continued to ask. The 2 robbers didn't know who Lin Yi was. They'd only seen Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing's picture, and they'd heard from Panhu, right, that there were only 2 girls in their class. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had to be the one sitting next to Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing. They just didn't pay attention to him. After all, as long as he revealed his heaven-rank power, Lin Yi wouldn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Oh, you can go die now, Bai. Lin Yi's words had successfully distracted the 2 robbers, and when Lin Yi finished speaking, he pushed out his palm and shouted, Frenzy 8 trigrams palm, 6th form. This palm was aimed at the tall robber, the late phase peak Earth class. With a loud bang, the robber was sent flying by Lin Yi's Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. He was like an arrow that had left a bowstring, shooting into a ditch on the side of the highway. He didn't even have time to scream before he stopped moving. Lin Yi's Frenzy 8 trigrams palm's 6th form was equivalent to the 12th form of a normal heaven class skill. The 11th form could cripple Elder Bai, and the 12th form could easily take out an Earth class late phase peak Elder Bai. The short robber was shocked. He didn't expect the person to be a practitioner, and realized that this might be the Lin Yi that Panhu Right had mentioned on the phone. He wanted to teach Lin Yi a lesson, but what he didn't expect was that after Lin Yi hit the tall robber, Lin Yi sent another palm towards his chest. Frenzy 8 trigrams palm, 7th form. Lin didn't stop after using the 6th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. He went straight for the 7th form. This was Lin Yi's strategy. Using the 6th form to trigger the 7th form had a higher chance of success. Pong! The raging fire chi surged out of Lin Yi's palm, concentrating on the chest of the short robber. The chi burst out in an instant, and the short robber screamed in pain, following in the footsteps of the tall robber. The short robber was sent flying by Lin Yi's Frenzy 8 trigrams palm's 7th form. Although he managed to stay on his feet after some distance, and didn't fall into the ditch like the tall robber, he still wasn't in good shape. He spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. The 13th form of the Heaven-class skill. How is this possible? You're a Heaven-class mid-phase? No, you're not. After saying that, the short robber spat out another mouthful of blood. It looked like he had suffered a serious internal injury. When Lin Yi saw the short robber's appearance, he immediately relaxed. Success, he actually succeeded. Previously, Lin Yi also tried to use the 7th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm, but every time he used it, there would be some obstacles. But this time, Lin Yi didn't expect that he would succeed in a moment of desperation. Although it was a bit shaky and not very skillful, he still succeeded in the end. Sure enough, in a critical moment, a person's potential was limitless. In the past, there was no pressure. Lin Yi just practiced step by step every day and deduced the martial skill. There was no sense of urgency, and he wasn't forced to a dead end, so he didn't succeed. But today, when facing a Heaven-class early phase expert, the 7th form was successfully used. But it had to be said that this was a very lucky thing. Lin Yi was really a bit risky. If he didn't succeed, then he would have lost the best time to make a move. And this Heaven-class early phase expert, Lin Yi didn't have the confidence to injure him. Although the 6th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm was powerful, it was actually equivalent to the 12th form of an ordinary martial skill. That was the martial skill used by a normal Heaven-class early phase or peak Heaven-class early phase expert. In front of the short expert, it could only be regarded as evenly matched. If the two of them clashed, it was hard to say whether Lin Yi or the short robber would be injured. So Lin Yi could only choose to take the risk. Chapter 2438. Oh, is that so? Lin Yi looked at Right Coiling Tiger with a faint smile. Who knew he was so weak? Those robbers from before were far weaker than the Sky and Earth-class masters of the Hidden House of You. You? What do you mean? What masters of the Hidden House of You? Right Coiling Tiger looked at Lin Yi's faint smile and asked back like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Nothing, you know in your heart. Lin Yi said lightly and walked to the last row. Brother Yu, why are you and Lin Yi talking in riddles? What do you mean? Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner, so he naturally didn't know the strength of the two robbers Lin Yi fought. He wouldn't have guessed their connection with the Hidden House of You, so he asked in confusion. Brother Kong, we've made a mistake, Right Coiling Tiger said with a bitter face. Those two just now were sent by the Hidden House of You. Those robbers before were real robbers, huh? Xiaolong's eyes widened when he heard Right Coiling Tiger's words. What? The robbers before were real robbers, and this time they were from the Hidden House of You? Xiaolong felt like the world was spinning, and he almost fainted. The lingering fear made him shiver all over. In other words, he had just walked around the gates of hell. Those people weren't from the Hidden House of You at all. Why would they cooperate with his act? He was lucky that he didn't say anything forcefully in the end. Otherwise, he might have been beaten to death. Brother Kong, I'm really sorry. Who knew that things would be so coincidental? Right Coiling Tiger looked at the scared Xiaolong and said with a bitter smile, It's not your fault. Xiaolong listened to Right Coiling Tiger's explanation, and his resentment towards him dissipated. It really wasn't Right Coiling Tiger's fault. Who would have thought that he would be so unlucky to meet a group of real robbers? But Xiaolong suddenly thought of an even scarier problem while feeling the lingering fear. He quickly asked, Brother Yu, didn't you say that the people sent by the Hidden House of You were Sky-class masters? How did Lin Yi get rid of them so quickly? He is indeed a Heaven stage expert. Right Coiling Tiger sighed. a Sky-class early phase and an Earth-class late phase peak, he said helplessly. Although these two masters were not the direct descendants of the U family, they were just hangers-on, just like Udaik who participated in the Hidden House Summit. After all, they were still part of the U family's power. Now that they were crippled by Lin Yi, Yupon, who was very unhappy. Even if he was not the master of the Hidden U family, he would be one of the elders. He was happy that the Hidden Right family was strong, but he could not be happy that the Hidden Right family was badly damaged by Lin Yi. What? A Sky-class early phase and an Earth-class late phase peak? None of them were a match for Lin Yi. Xiaolong's eyes widened. God, what level was Lin Yi at? For what I can see, Lin Yi is only at the peak of mid-Earth class. The only reason he was able to win was because of the element of surprise and the subtlety of his martial technique. Right Coiling Tiger observed carefully. However, there is no need to worry. In Boss Bai's class, Lin Yi won't kill us. Don't worry about his training. Xiaolong nodded and relaxed. Right Coiling Tiger was right. Seeing how Lin Yi killed without batting an eye, the two Hidden U family masters were either dead or crippled, and Lin Yi didn't hold back at all. But looking at himself and Right Coiling Tiger, although Lin Yi didn't have a good expression, he didn't use force. He used the strength of a practitioner to suppress them. This made him breathe a sigh of relief. This Lin Yi is really strong. Xiaolong sighed. Indeed, Right Coiling Tiger felt that he made a mistake. What did he mean by Lin Yi was afraid in front of Sky-class master? What was there to be afraid of? He attacked directly. This time, the family's loss was huge. They went for wool and came home shorn. The short robber was resting on the side of the highway for a long time. Only then did he catch his breath. Although Lin Yi's palm wasn't enough to kill him, his injuries weren't light. He quickly went to the ditch to check on the taller robber, but what he saw made his heart go cold. The taller robber's sternum had been shattered. His eyes were bulging out, and his mouth was foaming with blood. He was clearly dead. This situation made the short robber doubt Lin Yi's strength again. Was Lin Yi really just an Earth-class mid-phase peak? That palm didn't seem like it. To be able to injure him and kill the taller robber with one palm. How could an Earth-class mid-phase peak do that? Although there were elements of surprise and trickery involved, without that strength, it would be useless no matter how unexpected a sneak attack was. Thinking of this, the short robber's face darkened as he carried the taller robber's corpse to the back seat of the heavy truck. He said to the driver in front, "Drive back to the Hidden U family, quick." Yes. The driver was just a normal disciple of the U family, U-15. He only had Earth-class mid-phase strength. He saw the scene just now and was quite frightened. If he got out of the truck, he would have become a corpse by now. Phew. The short robber let out a long breath. Looking at the taller robber's corpse beside him, he felt a chill in his heart. If Lin Yi had added another palm, he would have been crippled. If Lin Yi had added another palm, he would have died for sure. Originally, he was very confident in this operation because it was too simple. All he had to do was steal a tablet, cooperate with Xiaolong to show off, and then show off his Sky-class early phase strength. That was it. He could go back and claim his reward. But now, it didn't seem simple at all. It was suicide. The car Lin Yi was in had long since driven far away. After Lin Yi returned to his seat, he closed his eyes and began to cultivate, quickly recovering his strength from the jade space. Han Jingjing seemed to remember that Lin Yi was cultivating, so she didn't disturb him and continued to fiddle with the tablet. As for Wang Xinyan, seeing Lin Yi's situation, she hesitated for a moment before taking off her jacket and moving towards Lin Yi. She didn't know why Lin Yi needed to cultivate after fighting the two robbers, but after thinking about it carefully, Wang Xinyan could roughly guess that the two robbers weren't good people. Perhaps they were masters, and they'd used up a lot of Lin Yi's strength. Although Xiaolong was sitting not far in front, after a period of internal struggle, Wang Xinyan still decided to help Lin Yi. She wanted to speed up the speed of his practitioner's arts so that he could recover faster. Chapter 2439. She was sure in her heart that she didn't like Xiaolong. Even if Xiaolong stood up and got beaten up, Xinyan only felt gratitude and sympathy for him. It was basically impossible for her to have a good impression of Xiaolong. Lin didn't think that Xin Yan would still make such a bold move when Xiaolong was in the car. It made him surprised and happy, but at the same time, he was confused. All the signs showed that Xin Yan should like him, but why didn't she accept his confession? Although Xin Yan's reason was that she had a fiancé, her actions betrayed her. If she really thought that Xiaolong was her fiancé, why would she be so close to him? Why wouldn't she stand up and care for Xiaolong after he got beaten up? Phew! Finally, after the car arrived at the destination, Lin also recovered his energy. He breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, he smiled bitterly. The raging fire by Wapom was indeed very powerful. It could even injure a Sky-class early stage master, but using it was really exhausting. Lin had only used the 6th and 7th forms, and he had already used up all his energy. It seemed that it was impossible to use the 7th form twice in a row. It might be possible during normal practice, but it might not be possible when facing an enemy. In this way, Lin only had powerful martial arts methods, but he couldn't use them at full strength. It was a kind of sorrow. He could obviously fight against a Sky-class early stage or even a peak early stage master, but because his own strength was too weak, he could only choose to retreat. However, Lin shook his head again. He was really greedy. With the strength of a peak middle stage Earth class, he had the strength to fight against a Sky class early stage master and even seriously injure a Sky class early stage master. This kind of battle record was unprecedented, right? Although it couldn't be used frequently, it could be used as the last resort and last resort. Although the power wasn't as powerful as a Chi bomb, it was much easier to use than a Chi bomb. Even if it couldn't be used immediately, it could be used as a last resort. Although the car that Lin was in had some trouble halfway, the driver still managed to catch up with the car in front. Although Lin Yi's car encountered some trouble halfway, the driver still managed to catch up with the car in front. December was a good time for skiing, and this place was also a tourist attraction, so there were many tourists. At least 2 or 3 students from 2 or 3 schools chose to hold winter outings here, including a high school. After the driver parked the bus, he told everyone to get off. The bus driver wiped the sweat off his forehead as he looked at the students getting off the bus. They had encountered 2 groups of robbers along the way. Fortunately, the second group was weaker, and there was a student who knew martial arts. Before the robbers could get into the car, the robbers were chased away. Otherwise, things would have been very troublesome. However, the students didn't think as much as the bus driver. When they arrived at their destination, all of them were in a good mood and had long forgotten about the previous unhappiness. They had regained their spirits and were excitedly discussing the scenery and attractions of the ski resort. Of course, there were exceptions. For example, Xiaolong and Tiger Right's group. Xiaolong's face was pale, and he grimaced in pain. The wounds on his butt and face were mostly healed, but his balls were hurting. It wouldn't be healed in a short time. Right Pon Hu, on the other hand, was panicking. He had to call his family to confirm if the 2 masters they sent were the ones Lin had crippled. Lin Han Jingjing, and Wang Xinyan got off the bus, and by Wei Tuo and Zhao Xingji also got off with Mei Yue and Chai Shaoling. Because we wasted a lot of time on the road, but in the end, we were all safe. I'm afraid everyone is hungry now, right? I've booked a few tables of delicious food at a nearby restaurant. Let's go eat something first. Only when you're full will you have the strength to ski. Boss Bai said after all the students got off the bus. When the students heard Boss Bai's words, they were really hungry. After all, it was already noon, and with the fright on the bus, their stomachs were already empty. They all agreed. Although this winter outing was held in the faculty after arriving at the ski resort. In fact, it was still an activity for each faculty. After all, none of the resorts and hotels here could accommodate all the biology students, so the task of leading the students to eat and stay fell on the head of the faculty. Boss Bai, on the other hand, found a restaurant and ordered some delicious food. The students went to a small restaurant nearby. Although the restaurant didn't look very luxurious, it had a rustic feel, and there were many customers inside. Boss Bai had clearly told them beforehand, so when everyone arrived, the dishes were quickly served. Although they were all ordinary farm dishes, they were very exquisite, making people salivate. After Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, and Wang Xinyan sat down, unexpectedly, Xiaolong sat on the other side of Wang Xinyan. Originally, this seat was supposed to be He Yue's, but because He Yue was a step slower, Xiaolong took the seat first. Wang Xinyan was sandwiched between Lin Yi and Xiaolong, and her face froze. She was blaming herself in her heart. Why did she sit so close to Lin Yi? Wasn't that giving him trouble? Wasn't Xiaolong here now? He Yue walked to Xiaolong's side helplessly. Senior Kong, you're sitting on my seat? This is your seat? Xiaolong pretended to be surprised. When we entered the restaurant, didn't Professor Bai say that everyone could sit wherever they wanted? But I'm good friends with Wang Xinyan. You wouldn't let me stand here alone, would you? He Yue blinked, deciding to help Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. Junior sister, it's not that I don't want to give you my seat, but I'm injured. Look, I'm injured all over my body. You won't be so inconsiderate as a senior, will you? Xiaolong smiled bitterly and said pitifully. He Yue was speechless. She didn't think that Xiaolong would come up with this reason, but she really couldn't reject it. Why don't you switch seats with Lin Yi? He's not injured, and he's very healthy. He even fought off 2 robbers just now. Xiaolong kicked the ball to Lin Yi. Forget it then. He Yue was a little speechless. What was the point of swapping Lin Yi out? Xiaolong didn't think that being injured would be a blessing in disguise. If He Yue wanted to switch seats with him, he wouldn't have any reason to reject her. To be continued. Chapter 2440. Lin Yi didn't expect Xiaolong to be this shameless, but there was nothing he could do about it. Out of sight, out of mind, out of mind. The food here was really good. Perhaps it was because everyone was hungry, but they couldn't stop praising these farm dishes. Xiaolong wanted to find something to talk about with Xinyan, but everyone was eating, and the atmosphere was a little heavy. He didn't know what to say. These few days, Xiaolong had been reading a novel that Kong Ming had recommended to him. It was called So Pure, So Flirtatious Prequel. It was said that there were a lot of tips on picking up girls and interesting things to do at the ski resort, so he decided to study it at the last minute. He was really engrossed in it, thinking that it was really useful. He suddenly remembered that the main character in the novel liked to tell jokes to his girlfriend, and that made the girl laugh out loud. Xiaolong felt that he should tell Xinyan a joke as well. I'm sure everyone's depressed because of the robbers, right? Seeing that everyone's so focused on eating and not talking, why don't I tell you a few jokes? Xiaolong said. Sure. Tiger Right, who wasn't far from Xiaolong, was the first to cheer. Haha, this joke is actually a brain twister. Xiaolong turned to Xinyan with a smile. What's that? It comes out from the butt, but it's still edible? Wah. Everyone froze, and even Tiger Right's expression froze. He felt a little disgusted. They were all eating. Why did they mention something that came out of the butt? Wasn't that shit? Xinyan, do you know? Xiaolong didn't notice the weird expressions on everyone's faces. He was focused on making Xinyan happy, and didn't think too much about it. He was an idiot when it came to relationships, or else he wouldn't have gone to those books to learn how to pick up girls. I don't know. Xinyan was focused on her food, and her face froze when she heard Xiaolong's words. She was speechless. It seems like no one knows. Then I'll reveal the answer. Xiaolong said proudly. The answer is an egg. Ha ha ha. An egg comes out of chicken's butt. How's that? Fun, right? Ha ha ha. Xinyan's chopsticks just happened to be holding a piece of egg. Her hand shook, and the egg fell onto the table. His expression was as strange as it could be. Ugh. Xiaolong realized that something wasn't right, too. He didn't expect Xinyan to be eating an egg at that exact moment. He felt a little awkward. Xinyan, I was just joking, haha. Don't mind it, keep eating. Eggs come out of a chicken's, but don't they have shells? There's a saying that goes, make mud without being stained. This is the principle. Ahem. I'm full. Xinyan put down her chopsticks, having lost her appetite from Xiaolong. Lin Yi picked up a piece of egg and put it in his mouth. He looked at Xiaolong faintly. Done? Ugh. I'm done. Xiaolong's heart skipped a beat. He didn't believe that Lin Yi would do anything to him in front of everyone, but Lin Yi's calm tone just now was enough to scare him. Xiaolong couldn't help but get nervous. If you're done, then hurry up and eat. Lin, he took a bottle of corn juice and gave it to Xinyan. Have some corn juice. You don't seem to have eaten much. Oh. Xinyan took the juice. She really didn't have much an appetite after Xiaolong made her lose her appetite. Xiaolong was a little annoyed. It seemed like his brain wasn't working properly after the beating. He said something that pissed Xinyan off, but he didn't dare say anything else. He just sat there quietly and ate his food. Su Longzi was the leader of the gangsters around the ski resort. Whenever he had nothing better to do, he'd bring his two lackeys, Ada and Air, around the ski resort, collecting protection fees from the businesses nearby. Teasing pretty girls was something he enjoyed doing every day. Of course, the reason why Su Longzi was able to do so well here without the ski resort taking any action was because he had a good uncle. His uncle was the general manager of the ski resort, and he turned a blind eye to his nephew's actions. The businesses in the ski resort were already making a lot of money anyways, and even if his nephew tried to extort them, they wouldn't stop paying the second year's rent. As long as there weren't any problems with the accounts, the chairman of the group wouldn't pay attention to the details of a ski resort under his banner. Today, Dazi Su brought his two lackeys to the farmhouse where Lin, Yi, and the others were. But when he saw that the place was full today, Dazi Su's face turned ugly. Ada, Air, clear out a table for me. Su Longzi ordered his two lackeys. Yes, Brother Longzi. Ada and Air quickly answered and started choosing their targets. While Ada and Air were choosing their targets, Su Longzi's eyes didn't stay idle. He looked at Wang Xinyan. This was a first-class beauty, and Rash Su's hobby was to flirt with beauties. His eyes lit up when he saw Wang Xinyan. Wait. Su Longzi waved his hand, signaling Ada and Air to slow down. What's wrong, Brother Longzi? Ada quickly asked. There's a pretty girl. Su Longzi pointed at Wang Xinyan's table. Han Jingjing was a pretty girl, but she was eating and playing with her tablet with her head down, so Su Longzi didn't see her. Plus, the first person he saw was Wang Xinyan, so he automatically ignored everyone else. Su Longzi walked behind Wang Xinyan with a smile, looking left and right. On one side was Lin Yi, and on the other side was Xiaolong. Su Longzi wasn't an idiot. He saw that Lin Yi was unharmed, and Xiaolong's face was full of bruises, so he decided to pick a pushover. Pretty girl, not bad. I like it. Su Longzi teased Xinyan and slapped the back of Xiaolong's head, yelling, Kid, stand up. Fuck. Fuck. There was a big bump on the back of Xiaolong's head. Although he'd applied some medicine, it wasn't completely gone, and Su Longzi's slap made him grimace in pain. He jumped up and glared at Su Longzi. He'd already been pissed off enough. A couple of real robbers beat him up, and he didn't know what was going on. He got beaten up for nothing, and now he couldn't find anyone to take revenge on. After being scolded by Lin Yi, he didn't dare piss off Lin Yi, so he could only endure it. But after being slapped on the head by a gangster, Xiaolong couldn't take it anymore. To be continued. Chapter 2441. Especially when he wanted to tell jokes to Xinyan, but not only did he fail to do so, he made her so disgusted that she couldn't eat anymore. He couldn't let go of this chance to make up for it. Xiaolong stood up abruptly and pointed at Dazi Su. Do you want to die? How dare you tease my fiancé? Do you know who I am? Are you trying to be cocky with me? I wouldn't have bothered with you if you just stepped aside. Ada, Air, beat him up. Dazi Su looked at Xiaolong's bruised face. No wonder he was covered in bruises. He was asking for a beating. Yes, Dazi bro. Ada and Air walked over, smiling darkly. Both of them were experts in fighting. Ada picked up a plastic stool and put it over Xiaolong's head, locking him in place. Air, on the other hand, aimed a kick at Xiaolong's crotch. Ouch! Xiaolong's upper body was covered by the plastic stool, and he couldn't tell north from south. He couldn't see what was going on in front of him, and he didn't know how to dodge. Air's kick hit him squarely, and his vision went black as he knelt on the ground. This was the second time he'd gotten his balls kicked today, and he'd almost exploded. Fortunately, he had some experience protecting his crotch, or he wouldn't be able to do it after today. Tiger, you was eating at the other table when he saw Zhao Long getting into trouble. He wanted to see what was going on, but before he could understand what was going on, Zhao Long got beaten up. Tiger Yu paled. Zhao Long had just gotten beaten up, and if he got beaten up again, wouldn't he have to be hospitalized? He was so scared that he quickly ordered the yellow hair and purple hair. Hurry up and save Brother Kong. Yes, what about those gangsters? Yellow and purple quickly stood up and asked as they walked. Beat them up, just don't die. Tiger Yu was pissed as well. Today wasn't going well at all. All sorts of random people were jumping out at him. Why was he so unlucky? With right coiling Tiger's order, the yellow-haired man and purple-haired man naturally had no scruples. Each of them grabbed Ada's and Air's hair and lifted them up. With a gentle turn, Ada and Air were like goods. They were thrown into the restaurant's ceiling with a loud bang. Then the two men fell from the ceiling to the ground. There was another loud noise. Air was still fine, but Ada's head was facing the ground, and he felt like a dog biting you. All of his teeth fell out, and his mouth was filled with blood as he cried out miserably. Even Daesu was dumbfounded. Although he was a hoodlum, he was usually brave and aggressive. But he had never seen a fight like this. Were these two people Hercules or something? Ada and Air were sent flying with just a gentle swing? Stun Su's expression changed. He knew that he'd met a real tough opponent today. He wanted to apologize with a smile, but the yellow-haired man and purple-haired man wouldn't give him the chance. The yellow-haired man grabbed his hair and kicked him down. Then he and the purple-haired man kicked him and Ada and Air, turning them into 3 bloody gourds. The yellow-haired man and the purple-haired man were both practitioners. Even if they didn't use pure chi, beating these hoodlums was a piece of cake. Fu! Zhaolong finally removed the plastic stool from his head, breathing heavily as he glared at the 3 people who'd made him attack. He started kicking and kicking them. The 3 who were already half dead were crying for their fathers and mothers. I didn't know that your men were so good at fighting. Then why didn't you do anything when Zhaolong was getting beaten up in the car? You're talking about me, aren't you? Lin, he said indifferently. Coiling Tiger Yu paused, remembering that he didn't let the yellow-haired man and the purple-haired man do anything. Lin, he probably saw something wrong, but he couldn't admit it right now. He laughed it off. There were so many people on the car, and the robber had a gun. I let my men do it, but I couldn't guarantee the safety of the other students. Lin, he smiled and didn't say anything else. However, after Stun Su was beaten up, the owner of the restaurant secretly called the general manager of the ski resort. Stun Su and his men had done a lot of bad things, and the owner of the restaurant hated them. Not only did they collect protection fees, but they also came here to eat and drink for free. But at the end of the day, Stun Su was the nephew of the general manager. Something happened in his restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant wanted to distance himself from it. And so, after coiling Tiger Yu's men beat up the hooligans, a group of security guards rushed in and surrounded Zhaolong and Tiger Yu. Kid, you got some guts. You dare hit our general manager's nephew? The security captain sneered as he looked at coiling Tiger Yu, the yellow-haired man, the purple-haired man, and the beaten-up Zhaolong. He's lucky he didn't die. Coiling Tiger Yu, of course, wasn't afraid of these security guards. Yellow hair, purple hair, he's too talkative. Throw him out. Yes, Master Yu. The yellow-haired man and the purple-haired man replied and walked towards the security captain. The yellow-haired man grabbed the security captain's collar directly. However, when he was about to grab the security captain's collar, the security captain actually broke free in an instant. Huh? The purple-haired man looked at the security captain, surprised. Golden class mid-phase? The security captain's face changed. He didn't think that the people in front of him could see through his training. This meant that the people in front of him weren't normal people. Who are you people? The captain of a security team hesitated for a moment, and his tone softened a lot. Someone who knew about cultivators and could tell his strength was at least a cultivator. The security captain only used his pure chi when he dodged, and that was how the people in front of him saw through his strength. The purple-haired man laughed coldly, showing off his mystic class mid-phase strength. He didn't dare to show off in front of Lin Yi, but a small security captain was only a golden class mid-phase. He didn't put him in his eyes. Missed a class mid-phase. The security captain's face changed. He hesitated and cupped his fists. Which road are you from, sir? Don't rush into the temple of the Dragon King. The ski resort I'm at is the property of the Fire Wolf Group. Fire Wolf Group? Coiling Tiger, you paused. He didn't think that the ski resort was the property of the Fire Wolf Group. Yes. The security captain's face changed again. To be able to call out the Fire Wolf Group meant that these people knew quite a bit. Chapter 2442. I'm from the hidden house, you. Your people started harassing our classmates the moment they came in, and Brother Kong couldn't stand it anymore. He scolded them a bit, and they started fighting. I just asked my men to teach them a lesson. You Coiling Tiger knew that the Fire Wolves weren't to be messed with, but he wasn't afraid of these small fry in the gang. So you're a master from the hidden house, you. Sorry for the offense. The security captain nodded. Since you've said it out loud, let's forget about it. We'll mind our own business. With that, the security captain said to the other security guards, Carry young Master Sue. Let's go. Yes. The security guards left as quickly as they came. In the blink of an eye, they were far away. Most of the students in the class were confused. Why did these people come in such a threatening manner? And you Coiling Tiger left after saying a few words. Of course, this was also because they were far away, and they didn't hear what you Coiling Tiger and the security captain said. Lin Yi, however, frowned. It seemed that he had underestimated the Fire Wolves and Red Conches. They really had a lot of businesses. Boss Bai was eating with the other teachers in the private room, and he didn't notice what was happening outside. Bai Weitua saw that the matter was resolved, and naturally, he didn't report it. After lunch, Boss Bai brought everyone to a shopping mall in the ski field. He said, Everyone can rent skis here. I'll pay for it, but if you need to buy skis, you'll have to pay for it yourself. Although everyone's money had been robbed along the way, the bank cards in their wallets were still there. The merchants here all supported credit cards, so some students didn't like to use rented old goods and preferred to buy a new pair of skis. Xiaolong was one of them. He had offended Wang Xinyan before, and he wanted to make it up to her. He quickly walked to Lin Yi, Wang Xinyan, and Han Jingjing. Xinyan, what kind of skis do you want? I'll buy one for you. This was a trick Xiaolong learned from the book So Pure, So Flirtatious. He didn't know much about skis, but before Xinyan said anything, he pretended to be knowledgeable and said to the shop owner, Boss, do you have skis suitable for girls? I want the Murloc card. There are special ones for girls, but the skis of the entertainment brand. The boss hesitated and said, The skis of this brand aren't particularly easy to sell. Why don't you choose another brand? No need. Xiaolong said firmly, I want the Fishman's ski. It's this brand. There's no doubt about it. Don't worry so much. Hurry up and get it for me. Do you think that selling this brand won't bring you any profits? I can give you more money. Lin, he was a little speechless at Xiaolong's behavior, but House Kong was indeed a nouveau riche family. Dr. Kong started with a prescription and didn't even know much about medicine, calling himself Dr. Kong. Buy it yourself. We will buy another brand. Lin Yi glanced at the skis the boss took out and said directly, Lin Yi, when it comes to fighting, you're the best. But when it comes to snowboards, I'm a professional. Xiaolong had been reading and learning these days, and the Murloc card was a very high-quality ski. That was why he asked for it. Oh, don't regret it. Lin Yi replied nonchalantly as he pointed at another brand of snowboards on the counter. I'll take this. Give me 3 pairs, 2 for women, 1 for men. Okay. The boss nodded. He gave Xiaolong a pair of skis from the entertainment brand and gave Lin Yi 3 of the most popular skis in the shop. Xiaolong's face wasn't looking good. It seemed that Xinyan didn't believe him at all and chose to believe Lin Yi instead. But Xiaolong wasn't in a hurry to turn on Lin Yi. If he lost his composure in front of Xinyan, she would look down on him even more. So Xiaolong felt that it was better to take things step by step. He still had an important plan to implement. There was no need to be calculative over a temporary loss. After buying the skis and some ski equipment, Lin Yi, Xinyan, and Han Jingjing left the shop. Some of the other students also bought some ski equipment. Although the skis could be rented, it was better to buy the ski shoes and goggles themselves. Xin Yan was holding a pile of things Lin Yi bought for her. She felt very conflicted. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't bring her bank card and gave all her cash to the robbers, she wouldn't have asked Lin Yi to spend money. But she was even more unwilling to ask Xiaolong to spend money. Although she didn't make a clear statement to Lin Yi, she had been so intimate with Lin Yi. Deep down in her heart, she already considered herself as Lin Yi's woman. She also believed that with a buffer of 4 years in university, Lin Yi would definitely be able to make the Sky Elixir sect compromise. As a result, Xin Yan didn't want to owe Xiaolong anything. If she were to take something from him now, it'd be troublesome for her to pay him back in the future. So, after some internal struggle, Xin Yan decided to take it. Lin Yi didn't expect Xin Yan to have so many thoughts. After changing into ski equipment, Lin Yi asked Jingjing Xin Yan, "Do you guys know how to ski?" Lin Yi asked Han Jingjing and Xin Yan, a little amused as he saw Bai Weitua fall a couple of times after changing into his ski gear. "No, but it doesn't look hard. I can give it a try." Han Jingjing had been observing people who were good at skiing for a long time, and she had a general understanding of the rules. Xin Yan, on the other hand, was a little hesitant. She looked at Zhao Xingji and Chai Shaoling holding hands, learning how to ski. She didn't expect Zhao Xingji to be so good at skiing despite being so fat, and Chai Shaoling was obviously learning under his guidance. This scene made Xin Yan wonder if Lin Yi would teach her the same way if she didn't know how to ski. But at that moment, Xiaolong walked out with his skis and smiled at Xin Yan. "Xin Yan, you don't know how to ski, do you? Let me teach you." Annie knows about the winter outing, so she asked me to take care of you. Xiaolong didn't know much about snowboards, but that didn't mean he didn't know how to ski. Quite the contrary, he'd rented a set of ski equipment a couple of days ago when he was scouting the area with Tiger Right. He'd spent the whole afternoon learning from the ski instructor, and while he couldn't say that he was a great skier, he was pretty good. To be continued. Chapter 2443. Xiaolong didn't have many good points, but he was very good at learning. He'd memorized all the important points the coach taught him just for this moment. "Oh, I don't know how to do it either. Teach me and Xin Yan." Lin Yi said expressionlessly as he looked at Xiaolong. "Ah." Xiaolong blinked. "What? You don't know how to do it?" "Yeah, Xiaolong, since you're so passionate, you wouldn't just teach Xin Yan and not me, would you? You wouldn't discriminate when Boss Bai encourages students to help each other, would you?" Lin Yi said faintly. Xiaolong didn't know what to say. He didn't think that Lin Yi would jump out at this time, but there was nothing he could do. "All right, I'll ski one round, and you watch me ski. How much you learn will depend on your ability to learn. Xin Yan's a girl, and I've been asked by her parents to take care of her. It's not that I don't want to teach you, but I don't have enough time." "Oh, go ahead then." Lin Yi nodded. Xiaolong quickly changed into ski shoes, skis, and goggles. "Watch me, guys," Xiaolong said after getting everything ready. "Oh," Lin Yi responded, a mocking look in his eyes, but Xiaolong couldn't see it when he turned around. He warmed up and started skiing according to the skills he'd learned from the coach. Skiing wasn't hard. As long as he didn't make sharp turns or race, and didn't do anything dangerous, normal people could learn it in a short amount of time. Xiaolong had practiced it before. It didn't take long for him to get the hang of it. Xiaolong skated faster and faster. He wanted to show off in front of Xin Yan, but tragedy always happened when he was feeling proud. With a loud crack, Xiaolong's skis actually broke. Xiaolong fell head first onto the ground, rolling down the slope like a snowball. He rolled for a long time before he stopped, but his hair and body were covered in snow. He struggled for a long time before he finally got up. Yu Coiling Tiger had been squatting far away with his 2 subordinates. Yu Panu didn't like skiing, and he was only here to accompany Xiaolong. While he was doing nothing, he saw something happen to Xiaolong. He hurriedly led his men and ran over. "Kong bro, are you alright?" Tiger Right helped Xiaolong up. "No, I'm so fucking unlucky." Xiaolong looked at the broken skis under his feet, speechless. His luck today was unusually bad. The ski broke? This thing can break? Could it be Lin Yi's doing? Right Coiling Tiger frowned, thinking back to the Hidden House conference. Lin Yi had caused Zhao Qibing to fail for no reason. He suddenly had a bad feeling about this. "Lin Yi, It couldn't be, right? I didn't even let him touch my skis. Xiaolong hesitated, unsure of what he was thinking. It's hard to say. He didn't touch your skis. However, he was a cultivator. What if he hit a pebble or something? It could break your skis too, right? Right, Coiling Tiger said. Let's go find Lin Yi. Xiaolong couldn't take it anymore and took off his skis. He grabbed the skis and went to find Lin Yi to demand an explanation. Xiaolong, your skiing skills are amazing. You even did a front somersault in the middle of the skis. We can't learn that. You'd be able to participate in a figure skiing show, Lin Yi said mockingly. He was pissed when he remembered that this guy was Xin Yan's fiancé. Lin Yi, did you do this? Did you break my skis and embarrass me in front of Xin Yan? Xiaolong ignored Lin Yi's mockery and questioned him directly. Xiaolong's words made Xin Yan glance at Lin Yi. Xin Yan didn't like Xiaolong and didn't want to have anything to do with him, but Xiaolong was still her official fiancé. Since Xin Yan didn't want to be with him, she didn't want Lin Yi and Xiaolong to have any conflict. She didn't want to be with him, and she didn't want anything bad to happen. What did I do? Lin Yi paused and remembered the broken skis in Xiaolong's hands. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're talking about the skis? Oomph. It's good that you admit it. Xiaolong humphed coldly. Admit what? Admit what? You bought a pair of skis made from low-quality steel. The steel is hard and brittle in this cold weather, and the skis must be made from aluminum alloy. Don't tell me you don't know that. Lin Yi mocked. You spent a lot of money to buy a piece of trash, and you're saying that someone broke it? Is that so? Xiaolong paused and said, That's impossible. I bought the Fishman skis, the best skis out there. How could there be a problem? It's a knockoff, right? Lin Yi smiled. Xiaolong's eyes slid to the skis in his hands. When he saw the words entertainer on it, his face twitched. How was this a Fishman skis? It was a knockoff with the same name. He looked at the quality of the skis again. It was really bad. It was a piece of trash used to make up the numbers. Xiaolong couldn't help but blush. He didn't notice these details at all. He didn't think that Lin Yi would have noticed it long ago. Why didn't you tell me before? Xiaolong felt a little guilty, but he was still angry that Lin Yi didn't warn him earlier. He wouldn't have made a fool of himself and fallen so hard. I told you, don't regret buying it. You didn't listen, Lin Yi said. Fuck. Xiaolong thought about it and recalled that Lin Yi really did say something like that, but he thought that Lin Yi was just arguing with him. Who would have thought that it wasn't the case? It was his fault for not taking it seriously. Xin Yan, on the other hand, thought that Lin Yi was a magnanimous person, maintaining his composure in front of his love rival. He even warned Xiaolong beforehand, but Xiaolong didn't listen. He brought this on himself, so who could he blame? Xin Yan blushed at the thought of the word love rival. How could she think like that? She'd have to wait at least 4 years before she graduated from university. Xin Yan, Jing, did you guys understand Xiaolong's demonstration? Of course, I'm talking about before. You don't need to learn the forward roll, Lin Yi said. Jing understood a little. Han Jing nodded. But I don't think it's as good as Lin Yi, bro. Xiaolong looked down on Han Jing. Wasn't this girl a little too open with her flattery? Right, Coiling Tiger, on the other hand, frowned. Lin Yi and Han Jing's relationship seemed to be getting better and better. This wasn't good for him to get close to her. To be continued. Chapter 2444. Xiaolong humphed and turned to Tiger right. Lil bro, let's go find that shop owner and get even with him. How dare he sell our counterfeit goods? After Xiaolong left, Xin Yan hesitated for a bit before deciding to go skiing with Lin Yi and Han Jing. Xin Yan wasn't very skilled, but she was smart. She watched as the others skated and copied them, slowly started to ski as well. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't plan on taking advantage of Xin Yan. He could do it any time he wanted. It didn't have to be when they were skiing. Lin Yi just followed behind Xin Yan and Han Jing, afraid that they'd fall like Xiaolong. The afternoon passed quickly, and Xiaolong and Tiger Right had returned a long time ago, but they didn't go skiing again. Instead, they sat in a nearby beverage shop and drank hot tea. Asking for an explanation for the snowboards was just an excuse for Xiaolong. He didn't really have any reason to go to the owner of the snowboards. He wanted to buy the snowboards himself, and both the shop owner and Lin, he told him not to. Who could he blame if he didn't listen? He could only blame his poor eyesight for not seeing the counterfeit brand clearly. Everyone rested at night at a villa on another mountain. They had to take a cable car or a helicopter to get there. Of course, the cost of a helicopter was too high. Usually, only the rich would choose this method. The school connected all the students to the cable car, and Xiaolong and Tiger Right had already asked about this beforehand. Each cable car could only take 2 people, and it would be a good opportunity for Xiaolong and Xinyan. Medical students had the least number of students, so Boss Bai arranged for them to be at the back. But this way, the medical students could play a little longer at the ski field, and naturally, no one objected. Xinyan, come with me on the cable car later? Xiaolong walked over and invited her. The entertainment snowboard in his hand had long since been thrown away, and he just called me and asked me to take care of you. Wang Xinyan wanted to refuse, but after hearing the second half of Xiaolong's sentence, she felt troubled. Xiaolong's words had, without a doubt, touched her most nervous heartstrings. Xiaolong's words reminded her that too much contact with Lin Yi right now wouldn't do him any good. For Lin Yi, the Heavenly Elixir sect was an unsurpassable existence. If she behaved too intimately with Lin Yi, she would definitely be punished. It would bring Lin Yi a lot of unnecessary trouble. Xinyan sighed as she recalled how Xiaolong had been fawning over her all along the way. She didn't know why Xiaolong's house Kong was looking for a marriage alliance now that they had such a powerful backer. Could it be that it was just for the sake of face? But thinking about it, sometimes people lived by their face, especially aristocratic families. What was the difference between a Shao family that had become an aristocratic family and a Shao family that had not become an aristocratic family? Without strength, what was the use of fighting for a title? But Shao families still wanted to stand firmly in the ranks of aristocratic families. House Kong was the same. In the eyes of these aristocratic families, the face of the family was more important than anything else. She was Xiaolong's fiancée. If she were to be with Lin Yi, especially when Lin Yi was House Kang's enemy, wouldn't it be a slap in the face? Xinyan looked at Xiaolong's wounded body and hesitated. It shouldn't be a problem to ride the same cable car as him. He was injured all over, so he shouldn't do anything dirty, right? All right, but we're still students. Even if we're engaged, some things can only be discussed after we graduate. Xinyan hesitated before speaking to Xiaolong. Her meaning was clear, and she believed that Xiaolong would be able to understand it. As expected, a flash of anger appeared in Xiaolong's eyes. Xiaolong had just transferred, but he'd heard a lot of rumors about Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan because of Tiger Right's presence. During military training, she was living with Lin Yi, and the two were very intimate in the car. Xinyan seemed to be helping Lin Yi with that. All of this made Xiaolong feel like he was being cheated on. He wasn't too sure, but with his years of medical experience, he could tell that Xinyan was still a virgin. He calmed himself down and said, "Of course, Auntie said that we should respect each other." Xiaolong thought that if he wanted to develop a relationship with Xinyan, this time on the cable car wouldn't be a problem. Once something unexpected happened, Xinyan would develop a sense of dependence on him. All right, Xinyan didn't reject Xiaolong after hearing his words. Lin Yi frowned. He didn't really want Xinyan and Xiaolong to be on the same cable car, but it was true that only 2 people could sit on a cable car. This was Xinyan's decision, and Lin Yi wouldn't interfere. But Xinyan's words made Lin Yi ponder. Graduate from university? Xinyan evidently didn't like Xiaolong. She would have been acting so intimately with Xiaolong otherwise, but with Xiaolong, it was just mutual respect. What Lin Yi didn't understand was what Xinyan was thinking. She didn't like Xiaolong, and yet she still wanted to keep the engagement. Was there some secret she couldn't tell? Although Lin Yi really wanted to find out, Xinyan wouldn't tell him if he asked directly. He could only observe from the side. The other students had already left on the cable car to the resort on the other side of the mountain. His classmates also got on the cable car with the staff, and only Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Xiaolong, and Xinyan were left. The last ones to get on the cable car were Tiger Right's underlings, Yellow Hair and Purple Hair. Let's go. Lin Yi, you stay behind. Xiaolong gestured for Xin Yan to get on the cable car. Xin Yan saw that he was being obedient and didn't try anything funny, so she nodded and got on the cable car. The two seats in the cable car were facing each other, so they weren't too close. After Xin Yan got on, Xiaolong got on as well. When Xin Yan and Xiaolong's cable car was far away, Lin Yi and Han Jingjing got on the cable car at the back. Xin Yan, you seem a little scared? Do you have acrophobia? Xiaolong smiled as he looked at the nervous Xin Yan. Xin Yan didn't have acrophobia, but she wasn't used to sitting in the same cable car as Xiaolong. To be continued. Chapter 2445. She couldn't answer Xiaolong's question directly, so she nodded lightly. Haha, do you need my warm hand? Xiaolong reached out, wanting her to hold his hand. No, it's fine. Xin Yan shifted her gaze to the outside of the cable car, looking at the two snowy mountains with a bottomless valley in the middle. It was all so beautiful, but it was too bad that she wasn't riding the cable car with Lin Yi. Xin Yan's heart skipped a beat when she thought of Lin Yi. She realized that ever since Lin Yi confessed to her, she wasn't calm anymore. She'd think of Lin Yi often, but it was a blur. Now that she thought of Lin Yi, she'd always put him in the position of boyfriend. It was a difficult situation. She knew that this couldn't go on, but there was nothing she could do. The hardest thing to control was the human heart. Feelings couldn't be changed by willpower. Even if Xin Yan didn't want to think of Lin Yi, she still had to remind herself not to think of Lin Yi. That was the same as thinking of Lin Yi. It was really difficult. Xin Yan, do you think the cable car will crash and fall? Xiaolong asked. How would I know? Xin Yan frowned. Couldn't Xiaolong say something auspicious? Why was he thinking about the cable car crash? It's not impossible for the cable car to fall into the valley, Xiaolong said. But it's fine, I've prepared some survival equipment. Xin Yan didn't know what to say. This Xiaolong really was the best choice for a boyfriend, who told disgusting jokes during a meal and cursed the cable car for crashing the moment they got on. If it was Lin Yi, he'd probably hug her and train. Why was she thinking of Lin Yi again? Xin Yan shook her head. Xiaolong thought that she didn't believe the cable car would crash when she shook her head. Of course, it wouldn't crash under normal circumstances, but this situation was a bit special. Xiaolong had been studying the prequel to So Pure, So Flirtatious. The main character was at the ski resort when he was hitting on girls. Then, the male and female protagonists fell into the valley together. Then, they survived in the wild together and finally fell in love. In the wilderness, especially when there was danger, it was easy to feel helpless. If Xiaolong put his heart into it, it wouldn't be a problem for him to win Xin Yan's heart. However, what he feared would come true. Xin Yan was admiring the beautiful scenery outside the window when she heard an explosion. She felt the gravity go out of control and realized that the cable car she was on had left the cable car and was falling straight down into the valley. Xin Yan didn't know what to say. She was annoyed at Xiaolong's jinx. She decided that she would never be with Xiaolong again. This guy was too unlucky, getting beaten up by robbers and gangsters all the time. He was tricked to buy a snowboard, and the cable car broke in the middle. He was possessed by the god of misfortune. Xiaolong, naturally, didn't think that Xin Yan had already categorized him as a dangerous person to stay away from. She was still proud of herself for coming up with such a good plan. He'd studied the location of this ski resort before. The cable car was built between two mountains, and there was a lake at the foot of the mountain. There was even a cave nearby, and it was a paradise for lovers. If only he and Xin Yan could get lost in this place, then he'd be able to. He felt that something interesting was about to happen. Wang Xin Yan, in her loneliness and helplessness, might also be happy. Xin Yan, don't worry. We'll jump out now. If we fall in this cable car, we'll die for sure. Xin Yan opened the door and jumped before Xiaolong could finish. She wasn't confident in Xiaolong, but she was confident in Lin Yi. She'd known Lin Yi for a long time, and she knew that falling from this height wasn't dangerous for a practitioner like Lin Yi. She didn't want Xiaolong to hug her and take advantage of her. At this moment, Xin Yan was thinking that if Lin Yi really didn't care about her and didn't come to save her, then it'd be better if he died. She wouldn't let Xiaolong take advantage of her. and she wouldn't have to worry about these things. Lin Yi frowned when he saw that Xiaolong's cable car was shot down by Purple Hair's hidden weapon. He could roughly guess Xiaolong's trick. No wonder this guy wanted to ride the cable car with Xin Yan. He wanted to play unfinished love in the valley. Jingjing, stay in the cable car. Don't wait for me. I'll go save Xin Yan. Take care of yourself, Lin Yi said to Han Jingjing. Okay. Han Jingjing didn't stop Lin Yi. She nodded quickly to show that she understood. Before the cable car left the cable car, the doors were electronically controlled. It couldn't be opened unless the circuit was destroyed or the cable car was derailed. However, Lin Yi broke through the window and jumped down in Xin Yan's direction. With their falling speed, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to catch up to Xin Yan. But Lin Yi was a practitioner, and with the help of pure qi, catching up to Xin Yan wasn't a problem. Xiaolong didn't think that Xin Yan would be so decisive. She jumped down when he told her to, but he wasn't even done talking. Xiaolong wanted to say that he had a parachute and let Xin Yan carry him down, but Xin Yan didn't seem to be waiting for him at all. Xiaolong jumped down from the cable car. If he let Xin Yan fall down, wouldn't she be dead? With that in mind, Xiaolong jumped down from the cable car and chased after Xin Yan, preparing to open the parachute in his backpack. Luckily, Xiaolong had a powered jet in his backpack. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to catch up to Xin Yan. Of course, this power jet was also prepared for a safe landing when the time came. There was a lake at the bottom of the valley, after all. The water in the lake was flowing, and there was only a thin layer of ice on top. Xiaolong didn't want to fall into the lake, so he used the power jet to change his landing position. He didn't expect to use it to chase after Xin Yan. Xin Yan didn't think too much when she jumped down, but the sound of the wind whistling in her ears scared her. She looked down at the bottomless abyss, and she felt like she was really going to die. Xin Yan, I'm coming. Catch me. Xiaolong didn't care about opening the parachute. Chasing after Xin Yan was more important. If he opened the parachute, his speed would be very slow, and he wouldn't be able to catch up to Xin Yan. To be continued. Chapter 2446. Xin Yan had an instinctive urge to live. She really wanted to grab onto Xiaolong, but she knew that if she did, their relationship would be complicated in the future. Xin Yan gritted her teeth and pretended that she didn't hear anything. But just because Xin Yan didn't hear him didn't mean that Xiaolong didn't care. He used his jet boost to chase after Xin Yan, and just as he was about to catch up, he felt a huge force pushing him to the side from his back. Fuck off. Lin Yi kicked Xiaolong's back, sending him more than 10 meters away. Fuck. Lin Yi, why is it you again? Xiaolong was furious when he saw Lin Yi. He was about to explode. He thought that he and Xin Yan would have a romantic love story when they fell into the valley, but he didn't think that Lin Yi would follow them as well. Not only did he follow them, but he also ruined his chance to be intimate with Xin Yan. Xiaolong was furious. Lin Yi, aren't you a little too mean? Kicking me from behind? That's not as mean as letting the purple hair knock the cable car down. Lin Yi glared coldly at Xiaolong, thinking that this kid had some tricks up his sleeves. He wasn't a complete idiot, after all. He knew to knock the cable car down and bring a parachute and jet boost just to have a romantic trip to the bottom of the valley with Xin Yan. Xiaolong didn't expect Lin Yi to know what he was doing so well. His face froze, and he didn't know how to refute. Xin Yan, on the other hand, was furious after hearing Xiaolong's words. She thought that the cable car falling was an accident, but who would have thought that it wasn't an accident at all? It was Xiaolong's scheme. The thought of Xiaolong using her life as a joke made Xin Yan hate Xiaolong even more. She didn't want to see Xiaolong get so unlucky every time, but now she felt that he deserved it. So, when Lin Yi came over to hug her, she only struggled a little before accepting it. She was pissed off by Xiaolong. Xiaolong's face darkened after being exposed by Lin Yi. He felt that Lin Yi was the villain in very pure, very dubious prequel, but in reality, the villain had become the main character. Had he become the villain? But there was nothing Xiaolong could do. Lin Yi was hugging Xin Yan, and all he could do was watch. The most important thing right now was to stay alive. Xiaolong reached out to press the parachute button on his backpack, but his face paled when he touched it. Coincidentally, The button of the parachute had just been kicked to pieces by Lin Yi. Lin Yi, you broke my parachute. Xiaolong glared at Lin Yi. Oh. Lin Yi didn't even look at him. He snorted. Fuck, are you trying to kill me? Xiaolong screamed at the top of his lungs when he saw that Lin Yi was ignoring him. Save me. I'll die if I fall. Oh. Lin Yi ignored him. Xiaolong panicked. He didn't expect this to happen. The parachute was broken. If he fell, would he be able to survive? In a moment of desperation, Xiaolong had no choice but to beg. Lin Yi, please save me. I don't want to die. Oh. Lin Yi continued to ignore him. If you save me, I can turn a blind eye to what happened between you and Xinyan. Please. Xiaolong didn't care about his dignity anymore. His life was more important. But even though he said that, he didn't think that way at all. His priority was to stay alive. If he denied it, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything. You can control the jet, assist yourself. Isn't there a lake down there? You won't die if you jump into it. Lin Yi reminded him, but he didn't believe Xiaolong's words. Xiaolong must be a villain to be able to do something like this. Xiaolong saw that Lin Yi wasn't going to help him, so he had no choice but to control the jet assist and adjust his falling direction to the lake below the valley. Xinyan looked at Xiaolong like a stray dog and found it funny. She didn't feel sorry for Xiaolong at all. He brought this upon himself. The cable car was working perfectly fine, but he let Tiger Right's men destroy it, and now he's suffering the consequences of his own actions. Lin Yi held Xinyan in his arms. Xinyan couldn't feel the cold wind around her because of the pure qi barrier, but Xiaolong was in a much worse situation. Not only did he have to watch his feet in the cold wind, but he also had to control the jet assist with cold sweat all over his body, afraid that he'd fall off and become a cripple. After a while, Lin Yi landed with Xinyan in his arms. Xinyan didn't even feel the impact of a landing, as Lin Yi's pure qi barrier had completely nullified it. Xiaolong, on the other hand, plopped his butt on the ice of the lake, punched a hole in the ice, and dived into the lake. After a long time, he crawled out of the hole, sneezing and looking very pitiful. Achoo! Xiaolong climbed out of the lake shakily. Luckily, he knew how to swim, and the place he dived into was a little shallow. He couldn't even reach his head if he stood up straight. Otherwise, he'd freeze to death even if he didn't fall to his death. Lin Yi was looking around, not in a hurry to go back. This was a chance for Xiaolong to get close to Xinyan, but it was also a chance for Lin Yi. Being able to spend time with Xinyan alone was a rare opportunity, so Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to leave. Xinyan, let's find a place to rest first. Lin Yi said to Xinyan after seeing a cave nearby. Okay. Xinyan looked at Xiaolong and nodded after some hesitation. Xiaolong was in a pretty bad state right now, but the thought of what Xiaolong had done before, especially the crash of the cable car, made Xinyan grit her teeth in anger. How could this person not care about other people's lives at all? Was he trying to murder her? Lin Yi and Xinyan entered the cave, and Xiaolong shamelessly followed them. He had no choice but to follow them. This was the cave he'd found the other day on the helicopter ride with Tiger Right, and it was the closest one. He'd even hidden some branches in the cave to start a fire. To be continued. Chapter 2447. If they went to another cave, there wouldn't be any branches. He was shivering from the cold right now, and it was like asking him to pick up some more branches. How could he do that? There's some branches here. Can we start a fire? Xinyan was a little cold as well. Although Lin Yi had used his pure energy to protect her, she still felt the chill in this empty valley. Half! Xiaolong yelled as he ran over, panting heavily. His heart was bleeding, however. He was the one who found the tree branch, and he had to give half of it to Lin Yi. But he didn't dare reject Xinyan's discovery, after all. Oh, you can have half then, Lin Yi said faintly. He could tell that the branches were placed here by someone else. Who else could it be other than Xiaolong? Xiaolong didn't hold back. He thought for a moment and said, Right, do you guys have lighters? Why don't we start a fire here? I'll start a fire, and we'll all stay together. What do you think? Oh, okay. Lin Yi didn't want to freeze Xiaolong to death in a situation like this. After all, Boss White valued the harmony between his disciples a lot, and Lin, he respected Boss White a lot. Boss White's background wasn't simple, and Lin, he had to listen to him. Then I won't hold back. Xiaolong was overjoyed. He took out a lighter from his pocket and squatted in front of the branches. You're quite well equipped, aren't you? You don't smoke, and you have a lighter with you? You prepared it long ago, didn't you? Lin, he looked at Xiaolong teasingly. You wanted to have a romantic night with Xin Yan in the cave, and you didn't expect me to join? Xiaolong felt a little awkward, but he couldn't deny it. Looking at Xin Yan's displeased face, Xiaolong thought that today was his unlucky day. If he'd known this was going to happen, he wouldn't have gone through with this plan. How unlucky! However, the worst thing was yet to come. Xiaolong pressed the lighter twice, and his face froze. The lighter was soaked in water, and he couldn't light it. Aren't you going to light a fire? What's wrong? Lin, he smiled at Xiaolong. Water, Xiaolong said, his face pale. Since you cannot contribute, there is no other way. You can forget about enjoying this bonfire, Lin, he said coolly. You have a way? Xiaolong paused and looked at Lin. You have a lighter? No. Lin, he shook his head. Why are you talking about me if you don't have it? Xiaolong glared at Lin. Can you fix the lighter? Go cultivate yourself. Lin, he casually tossed out a fire-type alchemic flame. The twigs caught on fire with a whoosh. The fire was very strong. Xiaolong remembered that Lin, he was a refiner, and he could condense alchemic flame. He didn't need a lighter at all, so he shamelessly came over. It's a waste if I don't use the heat from this bonfire anyways. Let me have some? Sure, but you'll have to go collect the twigs later. Lin, he didn't push him too far. All right, let me dry my clothes first. Xiaolong agreed without hesitation. He and Tiger Right had picked up the twigs earlier, and he knew where to find them. Xiaolong was shivering by the fire, and Xin Yan had recovered a long time ago. She didn't have any water on her, and it was just a bit of cold air. She was fine now. Hungry? Linny asked. I'm fine. Xin Yan still couldn't let go. She didn't like Xiaolong very much, but she was afraid that he'd force the Sky Elixir sect to harm Lin Yi. I'll go catch some fish. Lin Yi stood up. Okay, I'll sleep for a bit. I'm a bit sleepy. Xin Yan didn't want to be alone with Xiaolong, so she found an excuse. Xiaolong was speechless. He heard that Lin Yi was going to catch fish. He was very happy, but when he heard that Xin Yan was going to sleep, he didn't know what to say. But he couldn't let Xin Yan stay up to talk to him, could he? Lin Yi left, and Xin Yan closed her eyes to rest. Xiaolong could only sit by the fire, depressed. But thinking about the delicious fish he'd be eating soon, his mouth watered. He had some chocolate and hardtacks in his backpack, but they weren't as delicious as the fish. He came to the lakeside. There were always some fish in a naturally formed lake. He walked carefully to the hole Xiaolong had made and closed his eyes, using the jade senses to reach out and catch the fish in the lake. It didn't take long for him to catch 4 fish. He took out a blade from his shoe and cut open the fish's stomach before returning to the cave. Although he didn't think that Xiaolong would do anything to Xin Yan, he still wanted to be quick. He returned to the cave and saw that Xin Yan was still sleeping. He let out a breath of relief. You're back. Xin Yan heard footsteps and opened her eyes. She was happy to see Lin Yi. Yeah. Lin Yi found a few branches and put the fish on top of the fire to roast. Xiaolong didn't know what to say to Xin Yan, who had slept for less than 20 minutes. Xin Yan obviously didn't want to talk to him. He could feel that ever since the cable car incident, Xin Yan had become a lot colder towards him. Xin Yan had kept her distance from him before, but it wasn't like now, where she didn't even want to talk to him. Soon the fish was done. There wasn't any seasoning, but it was delicious. Xiaolong's mouth watered. Can we eat now? Yes, but you can't eat it. He took a skewer of fish and gave it to Xin Yan. Why? Xiaolong's hand froze. Go get it yourself if you want. Xin Yan and I will each get 2 skewers. You're not getting any, Lin Yi said as he took a skewer and started eating. Xiaolong really wanted to snatch it, but he didn't dare. He was afraid of getting beaten up. He smiled bitterly and squeezed out an expression that looked worse than crying. Okay, he's a bad guy, but you don't have to be so harsh. We're classmates, after all. Xin Yan didn't want Lin Yi to offend Xiaolong. You want to eat and get something for free? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Lin Yi didn't care. Xiaolong didn't have Lin Yi's strong senses, and he didn't have Lin Yi's skills either. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. M. Chapter 2448. Even though he could occasionally see a few fish swimming around, he couldn't catch them. After a long time, he didn't catch anything. Instead, he used too much strength, and the ice beneath his feet cracked. Xiaolong jumped back into the cold lake, screaming. Ah! His scream attracted Lin Yi and Xin Yan's attention, but Lin Yi didn't care when he saw that Xiaolong had only fallen into the lake. He wasn't far from shore, and the water was shallow. Xiaolong wasn't in a rush to get back up after falling into the lake. Enduring the cold, he reached out his hands to fish around in the lake, trying to catch some fish to roast, but the fish were very smart. He couldn't catch them no matter what, and after a long time of searching, he didn't find a single fish. Just as he was feeling depressed, he felt two things from the bottom of the lake. He didn't know what they were, but he picked them up. It was a turtle, and the turtle was holding a small bottle in its claws. After Xiaolong caught the turtle, it released its claws and retracted its head and claws back into its shell, leaving the bottle in Xiaolong's hands. I'm quite lucky. I didn't catch a fish, but I caught a turtle. Xiaolong grinned, thinking that the turtle was fine. He hadn't eaten a roasted turtle before, and he didn't know what it tasted like. He didn't go fishing anymore and climbed up the shore, running back quickly. He waved the turtle in front of Xin Yan and Lin Yi. What do you think? It's pretty high class, right? This thing costs a lot in the market. Oh, you eat it then? Lin Yi looked at the turtle, not thinking much of it. He'd never heard of a turtle being roasted before. How was it supposed to be roasted with such a thick shell? Xin Yan, do you want it? Xiaolong didn't even want to give it to Lin Yi. His target was Xin Yan. No, thanks. I'm full. Xin Yan shook her head, thinking that the turtle was quite scary. Xiaolong prepared to roast the turtle while warming the fire, but when it came time to do so, Xiaolong didn't know how to roast the turtle. It had retracted its head and limbs, and Xiaolong didn't know where to start. What is this? Xiaolong looked at the small bottle in his hand. It was a transparent bottle with an unknown blue liquid inside. Xiaolong didn't know what it was, but he didn't open the bottle to see what it was. After all, this thing was found in the lake. Who knew if it was poison or chemicals or something like that? It wouldn't be fun if it was poisoned. At that thought, Xiaolong wanted to throw the bottle away. Wait, Lin Yi stopped Xiaolong. What are you doing? You want it? Xiaolong asked. What if it's some kind of chemical explosive that explodes when you throw it? Lin Yi, of course, wouldn't say that he was interested in the bottle in Xiaolong's hand. He frowned and said in an unpleasant tone, Fisk, you're just trying to scare me. Xiaolong said disdainfully, but on the inside his heart skipped a beat. He did think that there was something bad in the bottle, and that it might be chemicals, but he didn't think that it was chemical. What if it really was explosives? Wouldn't it explode when he threw it? At that thought, Xiaolong passed the bottle to Lin Yi as if it was a hot potato. I'll throw it further away. Lin Yi stood up and walked out of the cave, but he didn't throw the bottle away. Instead, he asked, Jiao Lao, why do I feel like this is something good? It really is something good. There's a lot of water energy in it, but I don't know what it is. Jiao Yazi's voice sounded in Lin Yi's ear. As long as it's something good, I'll keep it for now. Lin Yi put the bottle in his pocket and returned to the cave. Xiaolong was roasting the turtle with fire. The turtle's shell was too thick, so Xiaolong threw the whole thing into the fire to roast. He thought that even the thickest shell would be cooked this way. The turtle was thrown into the fire by Xiaolong. It was obviously uncomfortable, and it struggled to get out of the fire. But as soon as it got out, Xiaolong kicked it back into the fire over and over again. Xiaolong was kicking it like a ball, and he was having a lot of fun. Wang Xinyan frowned. Although turtles were human food, she didn't like the way Xiaolong was abusing it. You can't kick a turtle like a ball, can you? After being kicked into the fire a few times, the turtle's struggles grew weaker and weaker. It couldn't take it anymore. The sound of the fire burning the turtle's shell was a little piercing to the ears. Xin Yan turned around, not wanting to see Xiaolong torture the turtle. But at this moment, Lin Yi suddenly felt an incomparably powerful aura suddenly appearing, carrying with it a sense of extreme danger, and the jade on his chest also sent out a warning signal at this moment. The jade's warning signal would only go off when Lin Yi or a member of his team was in danger. Lin Yi trusted the jade's warning signal, and with that sudden feeling, Lin Yi was on high alert. He wanted to pull Xin Yan's hand and leave the cave. The cave was small, and they could see the end, but Lin Yi felt that the danger didn't come from inside the cave, but from outside. As a result, Lin Yi wanted to leave the cave as soon as possible. If he was too late, he'd be stuck in the cave. But the danger came too fast. From the moment Lin Yi felt the danger to the moment it came, it was only a few seconds. Lin Yi didn't even have time to pull Xin Yan away before the danger arrived. Lin Yi sucked in a cold breath as he looked at the huge monster outside the cave. He had no choice but to pull Xin Yan back into the cave, hoping that the monster wouldn't enter the cave and get stuck at the entrance. But Xiaolong didn't seem to sense any danger at all. He was still kicking the little turtle excitedly, having a lot of fun. Xin Yan raised her head from Lin Yi's tug, realizing that something wasn't right. She jumped in fright and called out subconsciously, "Lin Yi, roar!" With a roar, a giant claw reached into the hole and sent Xiaolong flying with a single slap. Then, it snatched the little turtle from the fire. Xiaolong wasn't hit directly, but the force of the attack still sent him tumbling, his head hitting the wall of the cave. Blood started to flow, and he didn't know what had happened. He was about to curse when he raised his head, only to be dumbfounded. Chapter 2449. A gigantic turtle was blocking the entrance of the cave, glaring at the half-dead little turtle in front of it with grief and indignation. It roared angrily, "All of you must die. Die with my child. Sky-class spirit beast." Lin Yi was quite annoyed. Xiaolong's luck was off the charts. He caught a little turtle, and now he'd attracted an old sky-class turtle. The turtle paused, not expecting the people in the cave to recognize it as a spirit beast, and a sky-class at that. The reason why he spoke earlier was to scare the cruel humans in the cave and then kill them. What it didn't expect was that there was a practitioner in the cave. Only a practitioner will be able to tell that it was a sky-class spirit beast. Since you know that I'm a sky-class spirit beast, don't even think about living after crippling my child. The turtle roared, "Come out and die." Xiaolong was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect to attract a big turtle when he caught a little turtle. Of course, that wasn't the main problem. The main problem was that the turtle could speak. "Sky-class turtle, the one who crippled your child is him, the one you just slapped away. This has nothing to do with us. Don't come looking for us." Lin Yi looked at the turtle, feeling a headache coming on. He didn't expect to meet a sky-class spirit beast here. Who knew how long this spirit beast had been training here? But it wasn't surprising. This place was developed into a tourist attraction, but the two mountains were connected by cable cars. No one came to the valley, and no one would have thought that a turtle like this would be hiding at the bottom of the lake. "Lin Yi, you're so evil. You sold me out." Xiaolong's face changed. He didn't expect Lin Yi to say something like that. "You were the one who caught that little turtle. What does that have to do with us?" Lin Yi asked. Xiaolong's face was very ugly. He didn't know what to say. "Roar. I don't care. You're all going to die." The turtle didn't seem to want to hear an explanation. "You guys are together. Look at how he's torturing my child. None of you try to stop it, so all of you have to die." Xiaolong heard the turtle's words and looked at Lin Yi's speechless poker face, laughing at Lin Yi's misfortune. "Idiot." Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong. "You won't have to die if I die?" "Ga." Xiaolong's laughter stopped abruptly as he realized that Lin Yi was dead. Wasn't he going to die as well? "Come out and die," the big turtle said impatiently. "I'm not going out. Do you think we're stupid? Going out to die?" Xiaolong humphed. "Not coming out? Fine, then I'll block the entrance of the cave. Let's see if you can survive." The big turtle roared angrily. It stretched out its claws and continuously slapped the stone wall of the cave. Immediately, there was a loud rumbling sound. Rocks the size of rubber balls came crashing down. If this continued, the entrance of the cave would be destroyed by the big turtle. Even if it couldn't get in, it would suffocate Lin, E, and the others in the cave. Lin, this big turtle clearly wasn't an attack-type spirit beast. It was obvious that it wasn't an attack-type spirit beast. Perhaps it was a defense-type or some other type of spirit beast. Although it could smash a lot of rocks with its full strength, this level of attack could only be achieved by a golden-class master. Plus, the fact that the big turtle didn't kill Zhao Long in one swipe was proof of this. It could be said that the big turtle didn't kill Zhao Long directly because it wanted to save the little turtle, but Zhao Long didn't seem to be heavily injured. It was obvious that the big turtle wasn't that strong. This made Lin E sigh in relief. He was afraid that the big turtle wouldn't say anything and just come in and kill them. You're the one who caused this. Lin E glared at Zhao Long. Lin E, don't blame me. If you don't think of a way, we'll all die. Zhao Long could only put all his hopes on Lin E. Lin E was speechless, but he still said helplessly to the big turtle, "Stop. I can save your child." "You? Save my child?" The big turtle paused for a second, but it humphed coldly. "How is that possible? My child is heavily injured, and he hasn't even reached golden class yet. I can't even do anything to him. Don't try to lie to me. If you want your child to die, then keep talking. Keep talking nonsense." Linny said, Can you really save my child?" The big turtle hesitated. "Won't you know if I can or not if I try?" Lin E shrugged. "I can go out and heal your child. If I can heal him, then you let us go. If not, then kill me. How about that?" "Sure." The big turtle hesitated. Lin Yi's request wasn't fair. It was their people who crippled the little turtle, and it was normal for them to heal it. It could still punish Lin E and the others, but couldn't heal the little turtle at this point. It could only put its hopes on Lin E. Lin E didn't want to help Zhao Long, but the big turtle thought they were on the same side. Lin E saving Zhao Long was equivalent to saving himself. He couldn't care less and started walking out of the cave. Xin Yan was startled, afraid that the big turtle wouldn't keep its promise. She wanted to stop Lin E, but when she thought about what Lin E had decided, there was no way she could stop him. Plus, what else could Lin E do if he didn't go out? Was the big turtle going to let them go? Xin Yan looked at Zhao Long with disdain. Coward, causing trouble and not taking responsibility for it. Lin E walked out of the cave slowly, and the big turtle didn't attack him. It put the little turtle down and asked coldly, "What are you waiting for? Healing?" Lin E nodded and sat cross-legged on the ground. He picked up the little turtle and started using the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to heal it. Lin E didn't come out because he wanted to take a risk, but because he had a general understanding of the big turtle's strength. It wouldn't be easy for it to kill Lin E, an Earth-class mid-phase peak. The big turtle saw through Lin Yi's strength when Lin E was using his arts. It was a little surprised. Spirit beasts were rare, but there weren't many human practitioners. The big turtle had lived for thousands of years, and it had seen a lot of things. It was normal for rich people to have a few golden-class bodyguards, and some mafia bosses or robbers could be golden-class practitioners as well. But those were rare, and mystic class and above were rare. Only hidden houses would have them, and Earth class was even rarer. Chapter 2450. Lin E didn't answer the turtle's question, continuing to heal the little turtle. It didn't take long, especially since the little turtle was only burnt. Lin E didn't have any problems healing it, especially since it was only half dead from the burn. Of course, other than healing the little turtle, Lin E wouldn't help it level up. He didn't have much of a relationship with the big turtle, and he didn't want to reveal too much in front of Zhao Long. Healing spirit beasts wasn't a big deal. Lin E was a miracle doctor, after all, and Zhao Long knew a thing or two about it. Lin E was in a blind spot outside the cave, and he couldn't see what was going on outside. If Zhao Long asked, Lin E would just say that he used Miracle Dr. Guan's special medicine. There was no need to say anything else. At first, the big turtle was doubtful that Lin Yi could heal the little turtle. After all, the little turtle was almost cooked. How was he supposed to heal it? But as Lin Yi's practitioner's arts circulated, the big turtle's eyes flashed with doubt, followed by excitement. It could sense that the little turtle's injuries were getting better. Although it couldn't see the little turtle's injuries, it could sense that the little turtle's life force was gradually strengthening. This calmed the anger in the big turtle's heart. It's done. Lin Yi put the little turtle on the ground and turned to the big turtle. If you want revenge, then go find that guy from before. If you don't want revenge, then please leave. The big turtle looked into the cave and hesitated. It picked up the little turtle and walked slowly towards the lake. Lin Yi noticed that the lake's ice had been broken, and the big turtle's nest was at the bottom of the lake. He watched as the two left before turning back to the cave. "Let's go," he said to Xinyan and Xiaolong. "Ah, okay." Xiaolong naturally nodded in agreement. Xinyan was a bit confused. Lin Yi had already sent the big turtle away. Why did he still want to leave? But since it was Lin Yi's request, she didn't hesitate and nodded, following Lin Yi and Xiaolong out of the cave. "Where are we going?" Xiaolong walked out of the cave and was hit by the cold wind. He didn't want to leave again, but he remembered how scary the turtle was. He shuddered, not daring to stay any longer. "What do you plan to leave?" Lin Yi frowned and asked, "According to your plan, how are you going to get back if you fall from the cable car?" Xiaolong looked at Lin Yi, then at Xinyan, a little embarrassed. "I'll tell Right Panhu to bring a helicopter to pick us up in 2 days." Lin Yi was speechless and said, "Let's leave this place first. Let's go quickly. I think the big turtle will catch up with us soon. Isn't it done? Why did it go back on its words?" Xiaolong asked carefully. "I don't know what was in that bottle, but it might be the turtle's treasure. I've lost it. If it remembers, do you think it'll come looking for us?" Lin Yi said, "Fuck, why did you throw it away? You're looking for trouble." Xiaolong said, a little displeased. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He glared at him and said, "You picked it up, didn't you?" Xiaolong remembered that if he didn't bring the little turtle and the broken bottle back, there wouldn't be so much trouble. He quickly shut his mouth, not daring to say anything else. "Call Right Panhu and tell him to send a helicopter to us immediately." Lin Yi said, I don't have a phone. I got robbed." Xiaolong smiled bitterly. "Here." Lin Yi gave his phone to Xiaolong. In order to save his life, Xiaolong didn't dare play any tricks. He called Right Panhu directly. After a long time, he remembered that Right Panhu's phone was stolen as well. He had no choice but to call Boss Bai and hope that they were together. "Lin Yi, how are you guys?" Boss Bai was relieved when he got Lin Yi's call. He just got the news that Xiaolong and Xinyan's cable car had crashed, and Lin Yi had jumped down as well. Boss Bai was confident in Lin Yi's Earth-class skills, but he couldn't help but worry about Xinyan and Xiaolong's situation. He wanted to ask for help immediately, but Right Panhu stopped him, saying that Xiaolong was definitely fine and that he and Xinyan were having a romantic time, so he didn't need to worry about them. Boss Bai furrowed his brows and asked what had happened. Although he was angry that Xiaolong was risking his life for something like this, he breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that the person in question was fine. He scolded Right Panhu and told him that if he didn't pass his exams, he'd be fired. This wasn't a school, but Boss Bai was still very angry at Right Panhu for helping Xiaolong. He didn't care about the danger at all. "Master Bai, it's Xiaolong," Xiaolong said with a sob. "Master Bai, is Right Panhu nearby?" "Right Panhu? He's here." Boss Bai passed the phone to Right Panhu, not wanting to get involved in this. "Come, bro, what's wrong?" Right Panhu was a little upset. He could have just lied to Boss Bai, but Lin Yi had jumped down as well, and Lin Yi must have noticed that something was wrong, so he couldn't hide it anymore. He had to tell the truth. "Lil bro, you send a helicopter to pick us up? We're in trouble," Xiaolong said urgently. Okay." Right Panhu paused. He didn't know what the trouble was, but Xiaolong seemed to be in a hurry, so he quickly agreed. After agreeing, Panhu Right went to the security department of the resort to send a helicopter to pick up Xiaolong. This was the agreement he made with the resort the last time he came to the resort. If a cable car fell, they wouldn't be in a hurry to find him. They could only wait for him to come and send a helicopter to look for him. But this time there was an accident. Right Ponhu entered the security room and saw Su Lung and his two underlings, who were screaming and bandaging their wounds. The security guards from before were there as well. Ponhu frowned and ignored them. Instead, he turned to another security guard sitting at the desk and said, "Captain Sun, according to our previous agreement, send a helicopter to look for my friend now." The security captain was about to agree to Right Ponhu's request when he heard an angry shout. Chapter 2451. Lung Su yelled, "No. No one is allowed to go. Why send a helicopter? Throw this kid out for me." Su Lung Zi suffered a hidden loss. He had just found his uncle to stand up for him. But after his uncle heard that Yu Ponhu was hiding the Yu family's background, he hesitated for a moment and let Su Lung Zi endure it. Su Lung Zi felt very stifled. This ski resort was his family's territory. In the past, it was always others who were at a disadvantage. This time it was his turn. Naturally, he didn't want to. Captain Sun heard Lung Su's words and was in a difficult position. On one side was the general manager, and on the other side was Lung Su. These two people were asking him to go east and west. He had a headache, but he remembered that the general manager was the most powerful person in the resort. So he said to Lung Su, "Lung bro, this is what the general manager said. What do you think? Isn't my uncle afraid that Firewolf gang will blame him? It's okay. My cousin is good friends with the person in charge of Firewolf gang. If something happens, I'll talk to him." Lung Su roared hysterically. "Captain Sun, tell him to leave. Otherwise, I'll tell my cousin and you'll leave with him." Captain Sun heard Lung Su's words and fell silent. He knew that Lung Su had a cousin who was also a powerful character. He was the sworn brother of the newly promoted Fire Wolf Gang's branch leader in the province. That was why he hesitated. Ponhu Yu frowned. He didn't think that something like this would happen just because Xiaolong had offended this rash Su earlier. He didn't want to argue with these people anymore. He could see that with Lung Su here, it was impossible for them to send a helicopter. He could only ask for help from his family. After leaving the security room, Ponhu Right found a phone at the service desk of the resort and called his family, Hidden House Yu. At this moment, the short robber had returned to the Hidden House Yu. He was holding the body of the tall robber in his arms. His face was full of grief and anger. Grandpa Yu heard that the short robber had returned. Just as he was about to ask him if he had succeeded in his mission, he suddenly saw the corpse of the tall robber in his hand. His expression froze. "Shorty, Right House Head, that Linny is really powerful. Although he's only an Earth class mid-peak, he killed Gao Zi with one slap and seriously injured me. I'm going into seclusion to recuperate. Whoever wants to take this mission in the future can take it. I'm not taking it." With that said, the short robber placed the body of the tall robber on the ground and quickly ran back to his courtyard to prepare for seclusion. He was a guest of the Yu family, not Old Master Yu's subordinate, so his attitude toward Old Master Yu wasn't very good. Of course, this matter couldn't be blamed on Old Master Yu. He had already told you about Lin Yi's strength. You had accepted this mission because you coveted the natural treasures for cultivation. If you died or got injured, you could only blame it on your bad luck. Therefore, this matter was in the past. The short robber could only sullenly go back to heal himself. Old Master Yu, on the other hand, was scared out of his wits. Did Lin Yi really have the ability to fight a Sky class? He actually heavily injured a Sky class early phase with one slap, and killed an Earth class late phase peak with one slap? It seemed like Lin Yi had mercy on Elderby before. Now that it was the turn of these two disguised robbers, he didn't give them any face at all. Other than shock, Old Master Yu's heart was filled with fear. If Lin Yi was really this strong, then it wouldn't be a problem for him to wipe out the Yu family. Although he was a Sky class master, he wasn't even as strong as the other guests. His cultivation level as a Sky class alchemist wasn't particularly strong. He definitely couldn't mess with Lin Yi anymore. This was Old Master Yu's first thought. He subconsciously wanted to call Yu Ponhu. He wanted to tell him to stay away from Lin Yi and not get killed by Lin Yi. However, the the phone rang first. "Hello." Old Master Yu took a deep breath and picked up the phone. "Grandpa, I'm Yupanhu said hurriedly. "Grandpa, the plan from before failed." Xiaolong offended the local tyrant of the resort. As he spoke, Yupanhu told him what happened. "Let's not talk about this first. Let me ask you, how is Lin Yi so strong? He actually killed an Earth-class late-phase peak master and injured a Sky-class early-phase master?" Old Master Yu changed the topic and hurriedly asked. "This?" Yupanhu's heart skipped a beat. As expected, the two cultivator robbers were the ones sent by his family, and the ones from before were the real robbers. Thinking of this, the corner of Yupanhu's mouth twitched. He was really unlucky to encounter this kind of thing. However, while Yupanhu was shocked by Lin Yi's strength, he was also worried about Xiaolong's situation. So he quickly said, "Grandpa, let's not talk about this first. Xiaolong is very anxious over there. It seems like something big happened." The phone he used is also Lin Yi's. Using Lin Yi's phone? Could it be that Lin Yi deliberately forced him to make this call? Old Master Yu also knew about Yupanhu and Xiaolong's plan, but Old Master Yu was astute. He thought of the original Romantic Valley trip. With Lin Yi's participation, Lin Yi was naturally anxious to go back. In this way, this phone call might have been made by Lin Yi. It's hard to say, but with Lin Yi's participation, this matter is meaningless. Lin Yi is so dangerous. If we don't send a helicopter to get them up as soon as possible, what if Lin Yi does something bad to Xiaolong? Yupanhu said, "You're right." Old Master Yu nodded and said, "Then I'll send a helicopter over as soon as possible." "Okay, then I'll wait here." Yupanhu nodded. "Forget it. We'll talk about Lin Yi's matter when you come back." Old Master Yu felt that the Yu family should adjust their strategy towards Lin Yi, at least before the Heavenly Elixir sect expressed their stance. The Yu family should try their best to avoid direct conflict with Lin Yi. This guy was too strong. After Xiaolong finished the phone call, it had been 20 minutes. Lin Yi didn't see a helicopter flying over. He immediately frowned. Logically speaking, with Yupanhu's execution efficiency, it should be enough to borrow a helicopter from the resort and fly over from the top of the mountain in 20 minutes. Moreover, these were all prepared in advance. Why is it so slow? Didn't you guys already arrange to rent a helicopter? Lin Yi glanced at Xiaolong and asked coldly. P.S. Very Pure will be ending in April. Due to the plot of the ending, School Beauty's update speed will be slowed down. 12 chapters a day, but there will be no breaks. Very Pure will return to normal after the end of the book. School Beauty's physical book will be released on March 5th. Readers who like it can buy it as a memento. To be continued. Chapter 2452. I don't know. We did tell them, but who knew they wouldn't come? Xiaolong was quite worried as well. His head was covered in cold sweat. Lin Yi said that if the turtle found out that the bottle was gone, it might come looking for trouble. He wouldn't be able to escape then. Lin Yi was a practitioner, and he could escape with Xinyan. Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner, so what if the turtle caught him? With that thought, Xiaolong said, "Why don't we run in that direction first, then call Tiger Right and ask him to find us there?" "That works." Lin Yi nodded. He was also afraid that the turtle would come looking for trouble, and so they walked quickly in the direction Tiger Right pointed to. Tiger Right, on the other hand, took out Lin Yi's phone and called Boss Bai again. "Master Bai, it's Xiaolong. Can you talk to Tiger Right?" Xiaolong said hurriedly. Boss Bai frowned and passed the phone to Tiger Right. He already knew that the resort didn't want to send a helicopter, and he also knew the reason behind it. He thought that Xiaolong was too good at causing trouble. Boss Bai thought that Tiger Right was a good student and let him listen on class, but he didn't expect him to be such an idiot. Boss Bai was furious and didn't want to talk to him anymore. "Big Bro Kong, don't worry. The resort won't send a helicopter because of our conflict with Su Long. I've already called for one from House U, and it should be here in 20 minutes. Just wait a bit more." Tiger Right explained after taking the phone, and then asked intentionally, "Is it Lin Yi who wants to harm you or force you?" Tiger Right said this to ruin Boss Bai's good impression of Lin Yi. Boss Bai taking Lin Yi as a disciple and teaching him about elixir refining made Tiger Right very jealous. With Lin Yi in front of him, Tiger Right couldn't replace him. It was impossible for the right coiling tiger to replace him. Only by destroying Lin Yi's impression in Boss Bai's mind could he be promoted smoothly. However, Boss Bai didn't seem to care about his words at all. He didn't even look at him, much to Yu Coiling Tiger's disappointment. In fact, Boss Bai heard Yu Coiling Tiger's words. It was normal for Lin Yi to threaten Xiaolong. If he didn't threaten Xiaolong and tell him to contact the helicopter, he wouldn't be staying in the valley with him. Wasn't there something wrong with that? No, we ran into a water monster, Xiaolong said. Suddenly, he heard a loud splash behind him. He subconsciously looked back and saw the big turtle rushing out of the lake again. Not good, let's go. Lin Yi grabbed Xinyan's hand and ran, looking at the turtle's angry face. He must have discovered that the small bottle was missing. Lin Yi was starting to regret not leaving sooner, waiting for Tiger Right's helicopter to come pick him up. He'd been waiting for a long time now, but Tiger Right's helicopter hadn't arrived yet. He waited for a long time, but because Xiaolong offended Stun Su, the resort didn't send a helicopter. Tiger Right's voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet valley, his words still reached Lin Yi's ears through the phone. Roar! Don't run. Stop right there. Give me back the ice crystal. The big turtle roared and chased after Xiaolong and the others. Lil Bro Yu, the water monster is catching up. Let's talk later, get the helicopter to the north, and wait for us there. With that, Xiaolong hung up the phone and chased after Lin Yi and Xinyan, sprinting away. Roar! The big turtle didn't expect these people to run so quickly. It jumped out of the lake and chased after them. Lin Yi, wait. Wait for me. Xiaolong's face was ashen, and he was shaking with fear. He was shocked to see Lin Yi and Xinyan running so fast. Lin Yi couldn't even take care of himself. He wasn't in the mood to deal with Xiaolong. Roar! Die! When the big turtle saw that the three of them didn't stop, it was sure that they had stolen the ice crystal of turtle saliva. It immediately became furious and quickly chased after them. But as big as the turtle was, it was still a turtle after all. It couldn't crawl that fast, and so it was able to keep up with the group's running speed. It might even be a little faster than them. Just as it was about to catch up to Xiaolong, the big turtle swung its claw. It didn't hit Xiaolong directly, but the wind from the claw still hit Xiaolong's back. Xiaolong fell to the ground in a daze. Help, Lin Yi, help me. Xiaolong cried for help after falling to the ground, hoping that Lin Yi would give him a helping hand. Xiaolong endured the pain and crawled up from the ground as fast as he could. His body was pretty good normally, and he did pretty well in sports back in university. But he'd been beaten up a few times today, and he hadn't eaten anything to replenish his stamina. He'd used up most of his energy, and the fall made it hard for him to walk. The big turtle was getting closer and closer, and the claw was about to reach him again. Xiaolong yelled, "Stop! Don't chase me. That bottle was left by the guy in front of us. It has nothing to do with me." The big turtle laughed at Xiaolong's shameless words. "I've never seen someone as cunning as you. You hurt my child before, and I said that you'll all die. I don't care who touched my turtle spit ice crystal. You'll all have to take responsibility." Xiaolong saw that he couldn't convince the big turtle, and that the claw was about to reach him. In the face of death, his desire to escape exploded, and he used all his strength to run forward. He managed to catch up to Lin Yi in a few steps, putting some distance between him and the big turtle. But it was all thanks to Xiaolong's shameless words that the turtle paused and slowed down its speed. Otherwise, the turtle would have slapped him right there and then. Even so, Xiaolong didn't dare let his guard down. He knew that he was at his limit, and he wouldn't be able to continue running. He begged Lin Yi with a sad face. "Lin Yi, save me. If you save me, I'll ignore what happened between you and Xinyan. How about it? I promise I won't pursue this anymore." Xiaolong's words were still very artistic at this point. He didn't say that he wanted to cancel the engagement with Xinyan, but that he'd ignore what happened between Lin Yi and Xinyan. It was obvious that he was looking for an excuse to go back on his words. To be continued. Chapter 2453. How could Lin Yi not tell? But Xin Yan didn't think that much at a time like this. Hearing that Xiaolong was willing to use this as a bargaining chip, she was overjoyed. She turned to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, will you agree to it? Lin Yi looked at the expectant Xin Yan beside him. His heart skipped a beat. Xin Yan's feelings were very obvious, and her words had betrayed her. But Lin Yi was getting more and more confused. Why would Xin Yan care so much about her engagement with Xiaolong? Technically, it wasn't a big deal to break the engagement, was it? All right, but since Xin Yan was looking forward to it, Lin Yi didn't want to disappoint her. As for Xiaolong, Lin Yi wouldn't really leave him be. After all, they were classmates. Even if Lin Yi wanted to do something to him, he wouldn't do it this way. It wasn't a good thing for Boss White if a student died during the winter tour. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't make things difficult for him. And so, Lin Yi reached out with his right hand and hugged Xin Yan, pulling her against his chest. Xin Yan didn't expect Lin Yi to suddenly hug her. She lowered her head shyly. Her heart was beating fast, but she didn't dare raise her head to look at Lin Yi and Xiaolong. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't paying attention to Xin Yan's situation. His other hand reached out to grab Xiaolong, who was running behind him. As for Xiaolong, even if Lin Yi wanted to save him, he wouldn't let him off easy. Xiaolong relaxed a little when Lin Yi pulled him back, but the next moment, something cruel happened that he didn't expect. Lin Yi increased his speed after grabbing Xiaolong. Xin Yan was in Lin Yi's arms, so she wasn't affected. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was unluckier. He couldn't keep up with Lin Yi's speed, and Lin Yi dragged him forward. He fell on his butt and was dragged forward by Lin Yi. The ground of the valley was smooth and covered with ice and snow, but Xiaolong's butt still bumped into the rocks on the snowy ground. After all, no matter how smooth the valley floor was, it was impossible for there to be no rocks on it. Xiaolong was in trouble. Ouch! Xiaolong's cries were especially piercing in the valley. Very soon, his butt was covered in cuts from the stones on the ground. The wounds from before were mostly healed by miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine, but now they were being cut open again, adding more wounds on top of the previous ones. But Xiaolong was in great pain, but he knew that Lin Yi was doing this on purpose. If Lin Yi could carry Xin Yan, it didn't mean that he couldn't carry Xiaolong as well. Lin Yi was a practitioner, after all, but it was already good enough that Lin Yi wasn't carrying him. Xiaolong was afraid that Lin Yi would abandon him, so he could only endure it. When he couldn't hold it in any longer, he looked at the big turtle chasing after him and thought of the teenage mutant ninja turtle, so he held back. Slowly, Lin Yi increased the distance between him and the turtle. Lin Yi's Qigong was good, and without Xin Yan and Xiaolong holding him back, he didn't need to worry about the turtle catching up. The big turtle, on the other hand, let out an angry roar as it watched Lin Yi and the others getting further and further away. It knew that it wouldn't be able to catch up. When it saw Lin Yi carrying one person and pulling another, it knew that it had to give up. There were practitioners here. It really couldn't take advantage of them. Lin Yi's guess was correct. The turtle's strength lay in defense, not offense. Even if Lin Yi was a sky class, he couldn't do anything to it. But it couldn't catch up to Lin Yi. It had no choice but to swallow this loss. It wasn't that it didn't have the ice crystal turtle saliva. It still had some, but it was very precious. This small bottle would take the turtle tens of years to refine. This was the crystallization of its strength. It wasn't very useful to the big turtle, but it was very useful to the little turtle. The little turtle could use this to train. The big turtle still had some left, but something as precious as this was something that could increase its strength. It didn't want to give it to Lin Yi that easily, but it couldn't get it back now. There was nothing it could do. Don't let me see you again. The big turtle roared helplessly. Lin Yi heard the turtle's roar, and he felt nervous for no reason. This was actually a sign of guilt. Lin Yi did take the ice crystal turtle saliva bottle, so in theory, Xiaolong was the scapegoat for him. Although Xiaolong was the one who started it all, Xiaolong was the one who found the bottle, so Lin Yi still felt a little grateful toward Xiaolong. This was also the reason why he didn't abandon Xiaolong. Lin Yi, can you let me go now? That monster isn't chasing us anymore, my butt. Xiaolong was almost crying from the pain. His butt didn't seem to belong to him anymore. Oh, Lin, he was in the middle of sprinting when he heard Xiaolong's words. Xiaolong, on the other hand, leaned backwards due to the inertia, and the back of his head hit the ground with a clang, hitting the big bump on the ground. The pain made him grit his teeth in pain. Linny, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Xiaolong got up from the ground and turned around, glaring at Lin. You told me to let you go. Linny curled his lips, not caring. Xiaolong was angry, but he didn't let it show. Lin, he was his savior, after all, and he wasn't that ungrateful. But the more he looked at Xinyan and Lin Yi's arms, the angrier he got. It was just that Xiaolong had promised that he'd turn a blind eye to what happened between Lin Yi and Xinyan. He wanted to go back on his words when he got back, but it hadn't been that long, and he didn't have the thick skin to deny it. He could only pinch his nose and accept it. Linny, can you put me down now? Xinyan's heart was beating like crazy, but she felt a little better when she remembered that they were running for their lives. Now that they were safe, she felt a little embarrassed. Okay, Lin, he put Xinyan down. It wasn't that he wanted to take advantage of her, but that he'd forgotten that she was in his arms. Lin, he couldn't help but feel a little regretful after putting her down. He'd been so focused on running and thinking about the ice crystal that he'd forgotten about the beauty in his arms. He only came back to his senses after Xinyan reminded him, but he didn't think about taking advantage of her. He could have trained while running. To be continued. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.